Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening. Because the Prita path had absorbed the natural energy within the fire, its chakra was in a state of chaos, unable to dodge, and was grasped in the palm. Meanwhile, its right fist struck hard at the charging giant dog, causing the red 3-headed dog to yelp in pain. The blow sent it flying and tumbling back to the ground. In the distant forest. What a terrifying dojutsu. Neji's eyes widened unconsciously. One of the Uchiha has summoned a giant mage of chakra. Kiba clutched the whimpering Akamaru tightly, his voice tense. It's so frightening, even Akamaru can feel the fear from this distance. Woof. A chakra giant, I've never even heard of such a thing. Might Guy's expression also grew serious. Universal pull. Pain's Devapath extended his right hand toward the captured Pritapath, activating a gravitational pull to try to rescue him. Izuna, controlling the Susanoo, resisted the pull while tightening his grip on the left hand. At that moment, Chiri, who was behind him, suddenly leapt out of Susanoo's range. Her figure flashed under the influence of the pull, and her ninja blade swiftly decapitated the Pritapath. The decapitated head of the Pritapath, propelled by the gravitational pull, flew toward the Devapath first. The Devapath stopped the release of his jutsu, swiftly moved aside, and dodged the flying head, positioning himself directly in front of the bound animal path. Trapping the animal path to draw my attention while really aiming to kill the ability-absorbing Pritapath. Your goals have always been clear, he said in a voice devoid of emotion. I've changed my mind, mortals. Your offenses have exceeded the tolerance of the gods. You must pay a price far greater than death. Chapter 58, On the Tall Tree. Obito glanced down at Nagato below, remarking somewhat strangely. The situation is unfavorable. The abilities of the human path, the Naraka path, and the Prita path have all been eliminated, which is troublesome. It seems your information has leaked. There aren't many in the organization who know your abilities. Who could it be? Nagato's emaciated face showed no expression, only a cold gleam in his purple eyes as he blandly replied. It doesn't matter. The gods won't lose their power just because mortals understand them. As long as the Devapath exists, pain is invincible. Obito relaxed against the tree trunk, his voice hoarse as he said. All right, but I'll intervene if necessary. No need. You don't have to do anything extra. Nagato bluntly interrupted. The gods cannot fail. In the battlefield, Izuna Uchiha had already taken advantage of the moment when Nagato ceased his almighty push ninjutsu to appear behind Susanoo. Is this kid still not recovered? Izuna glanced at the motionless Kaido and then back at Chiri. It seems it's up to just the 2 of us for now. Please, Izuna, protect Kaido for the time being. Leave the rest to me. Chiri softly said, then drew the second ninja blade from her waist. Izuna smiled and agreed. Are you ready to dance, Chiri? Then I'll be watching. Izuna remarked with a high voice as he stepped out from behind Susanoo. Hearing this, Nagato, with a cold look, stared at her. You're the only one stepping forward. Are you trying to buy time for your comrades? Although I don't know what Kaido is preparing, in the face of God, everything you do is futile. As someone who claims to be a god. Chiri raised her head to look at Nagato. In my eyes, you're no different from us, just a struggle of mortals. As a mortal like you, of course, you cannot understand the greatness of God, and God does not need your understanding. Because when God decides your fate, any words and actions will be futile struggles. Truly someone impossible to converse with. Chiri remarked with some helplessness. She reversed her hand and inserted the ninja blade into the ground, forming seals with both hands. Sage art, fire style, rage of sages, flame of phoenixes. Different from the ordinary C-rank fire style ninjutsu, fire style, rage of sages, flame of phoenixes, with sage chakra, produced several huge fireballs from her mouth successively, roaring towards the remaining 3 enemies. Then, she crouched and pulled out her 2 ninja blades, rushing forward under the cover of the fire style ninjutsu. It's useless, almighty push. Facing Chiri's attack, Nagato simply raised his hands, deflecting all the fireballs instantly and blocking her charge, forcefully pushing her back. At the same time, the crab summon spewed a foam towards her from afar. Meanwhile, the Azura path began transforming one of its arms. Several missiles shot out from its arm, trailing flames, colliding with her body. Boom. An explosion sounded, but only splinters flew out. Izuna's figure had already appeared on the other side. Substitution jutsu, futile struggle. Nagato aimed his palm at Chiri. Universal pull. Under the influence of gravity, Chiri's body was pulled towards Nagato involuntarily. Uchiha style, flame dance. Both blades in Chiri's hands ignited with flames. Adjusting her posture under the influence of gravity, she lifted two giant blades formed by flames towards Nagato. Roar. The red giant dog, now with four heads, suddenly charged forward. Its four brains shook, emitting roars, blocking Nagato's path. The two flaming blades in Izuna's hands immediately struck the giant dog. The flames exploded, and the dog let out a painful howl. Chiri pulled back her blades to prepare to create distance, but unexpectedly, the parts of the dog's body hit by the blades grew two new heads. One of the heads suddenly lunged out, its large mouth biting onto Izuna. Its sharp teeth pierced through her body, causing blood to flow profusely for a moment. I told you, struggle is futile. Nagato's cold voice sounded. He walked out from behind the giant dog. Mortals are destined not to challenge the dignity of God. So, rest assured, because your comrades will soon follow in your footsteps. Seeing Chiri, with her head hanging low and no signs of life, and her ninja blade drop to the ground, Nagato shifted his gaze towards Suzuna and Kaido, protected by Suzuno. It seems abandoning your comrades won't prolong your lives any further. Now it's your turn. SHH. The sound of a blade piercing flesh suddenly sounded behind him. What? Nagato turned to look, and Chiri appeared beside the animal path, her two ninja blades already pierced into its body. Bang. At the same time, Chiri in the dog's mouth turned into smoke. How did you do that? Nagato looked at Chiri, cracks appearing in his unchanging cold expression. Since you've obtained information about Pain's six paths, you should know our vision is shared. However, neither the three remaining on the battlefield nor Nagato, controlling from afar, had noticed how Chiri appeared beside the animal path. Sword leap flame. Chiri's ninja blade ignited again, completely burning the inside of the animal path's body. At the same time, the giant dog and crab she had summoned turned into dust and disappeared from the arena. How did I do it? Chiri withdrew her ninja blade from the body of the animal path, smiling at Nagato. You who claim to be a god, actually need to ask me, a mere mortal? I admit, I underestimated you before. Nagato furrowed his brows. But I will not give you any respite now. A black rod slid from the sleeve of his right hand, which he then held out in his palm, and extended his left hand toward Chiri. Universal pull. A stronger gravitational force than before made Chiri's body unable to maintain balance. She was instantly pulled in front of him, and the black rod in his right hand blocked the ninja blade she managed to swing. At the same time, the remaining Azura Path's body began to transform, several arms combining to form a massive cannon aimed at Izuna. Azura attack. A massive chakra visible to the naked eye gathered at the cannon's muzzle, then transformed into a thick beam of light, shooting directly at Izuna. Boom. An unprecedentedly violent explosion sounded, and cracking noises continuously came from the exterior of Suzuno. Because he needed to protect the immobilized Kaido behind him, he had to exert all his chakra continuously repairing the damage to Suzuno. Chapter 59, Almighty Push. Pain once again unleashed a powerful repulsive force from his hands, striking heavily against Chiri Uchiha's body. Ah! Chiri cried out in pain, no longer able to maintain her balance. Her ninja sword flew from her grasp, and she was thrown out like a kite with its string cut. On the other side, seeing that a single strike was ineffective, Azura Path's cannon began to gather power again. More tremendous chakra gathered, and the blue light became unbearably piercing. TSK. Izuna immediately increased the output of his chakra, and the skeletal form of Suzuno on him swiftly grew meridians and flesh. Unlike my brother's complete Suzuno, this is as far as I can go, he said, looking back at Kaido. What a troublesome kid. Yasaka Magatama. The second form of Suzuno now had 3 giant Magatama in each hand. Izuna, controlling the Suzuno, swung his arms, sending all the Magatama hurling towards the direction of the laser cannon. Boom. The Magatama collided with a laser, igniting a brilliant fire that soared into the sky. The sound of the explosion was deafening, and with the fierce wind, the entire field was flipped over, even the trees at the edges were uprooted. Ah! In the distant forest, Hinata, who was observing the battlefield with her Byakugan, couldn't help but exclaim. At this moment, the Leaf Village ninjas also heard the huge commotion from afar. Seeing the fire light up, feeling the ground tremble, Several Geinen's expressions became quite animated. They could not imagine what level of battle was occurring ahead that it could cause such a strong reaction. Even Kurenai, a Jonin, was profoundly shocked. Among them, only Might Guy, an elite Jonin, remained calm. "Don't worry, the fight won't reach us here." He gave a thumbs up, showing his signature smile to reassure the Geinin. "Even if something unexpected happens, I, Might Guy of the Leaf, the noble blue beast, will protect you." As expected of Guy-sensei, so reliable. Rock Lee, Guy's disciple, looked up at his teacher's tall figure, moved to tears. After a while, the explosion finally subsided, but the battlefield was now completely unrecognizable. "Luckily I buried the seals deep earlier, or it would have been a disaster now." Kaido's voice suddenly rang out. Izuna turned to look at Kaido, who had his eyes open, and somewhat irritably said, "You can finally move, huh? Because I had to protect you, I couldn't fight freely." "Little Kaido, you're ready," said Chiri Uchiha, somewhat disheveled, as she also got up from the ground. Kaido, looking at Chiri's condition, said somewhat ashamedly, "Thank you, Chiri-sama. Sorry, this time it was my whimsy." Chiri dusted the dirt and weeds off her body and chuckled, shaking her head. "It's okay, little Kaido. After all, I'm not so easy to kill. The two seniors can rest for a while, I'll take over from here." Kaido strode out of Izuna's Susanoo, his gaze sharp, looking towards Pain and Azure Path in the distance. "Oh? You're finally stepping up, Kaido." Pain looked coldly at the cleanest and most tidy young man on the field, and said gravely, "Always hiding behind your companions might make me think your judgment was mistaken, that you really don't have the value of being personally killed by a god." Kaido just smiled and said, "That must be hard for you, but my value can only be assessed by myself." The ore bursting from his body made everyone present feel a heaviness in their bodies, suddenly struggling to breathe. His face filled with strong confidence, he spoke word by word. "You're not qualified to measure my value. Arrogant." Pain's body almost burst forth with powerful chakra. He raised a black rod in his hand towards Kaido. "Let me tell you, anything a god wants to do is naturally justifiable. To me, there's no such thing as a justifiable reason." Kaido formed a seal with both hands, fearlessly locking eyes with Pain. At this moment, feeling Kaido's aura from afar, Obito Uchiha's eyes became more solemn. Looking down at Nagato, who was rapidly panting, Obito thought, "This guy, Nagato, the battle has dragged on for so long, he might not last much longer." On the plains, Pain, holding a black rod, charged towards Kaido Uchiha, with Azure Path closely following, his wrist deploying numerous small serrated blades. Kaido Uchiha displayed a slightly eerie smile, his body glowing with spirit. 5 elements sealing barrier. Swoosh. 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 Red, green, yellow, brown, and blue, pillars of light in these 5 colors burst from the ground in different directions, enclosing the battlefield. Then, the 5 pillars of light started connecting from the bottom, surrounded by a pentagon light barrier of the same height, and a giant pentagram formed on the ground. With the formation of the barrier, Pain and Azure Path, who were charging forward, suddenly stopped in their tracks, falling to the ground like suddenly deceased corpses. What was that? Obito Uchiha withdrew his gaze, jumped down from the tree, and came next to Nagato to ask, "What just happened?" "The chakra connection between me and Pain was severed." Nagato gasped a few breaths, his voice hoarse. It must have been that strange barrier, blocking the transmission of chakra. So they had already prepared for Pain. Obito said gravely, looking towards the glowing barrier on the plains. "You're already tired. At this point, it seems I have to make a move." "No." Nagato lifted his head, somewhat excitedly saying, "That man, Kaido Uchiha, made Pain, who is seen as a god, appear tainted, unforgivable. I will kill him myself." "What is that? A barrier?" Kiba looked up at the distant rising light barrier. "A strange barrier." Neji observed the scene on the battlefield with his Byakugan. The members of the Akatsuki organization suddenly fell down dead, and our mission target has won. "No, there are more people." Hinata scanned the surroundings of the battlefield and suddenly exclaimed in surprise. "There are 2 more members of the Akatsuki in the forest on the other side, approaching the battlefield. Have they arrived?" Kaido Uchiha accurately directed his gaze towards Nagato and Obito Uchiha's direction, calling out loudly, "I've been waiting for you. Nagato, and Madara Uchiha." Chapter 60, It seems you know quite a bit. Obito's deep, hoarse voice came from the distant forest. He was the first to emerge from the forest, carrying a giant fan, appearing at the edge of the formation. Following him was Nagato, seated on a huge mechanical device. The massive mechanical device floated in the air, moving around, with Nagato in the center, his head drooping, his half-length red hair covering his face, revealing only one eye shining with a cold purple light. His bare upper body was emaciated, like a mummy, with dense black rods inserted into his back, and his hands encased in cylindrical metal. This man had no semblance of life about him, like a demon crawled out from hell, causing a deep discomfort in anyone who saw him. At this time, the people of Hidden Leaf Village had quietly arrived at a mountaintop, hidden among the dense leaves of a large tree, overlooking the situation on the plains. That person. Hinata was so frightened by Nagato's appearance that her face turned pale. Hey! Is that a living person? Not a puppet? Kiba whispered. Of course, it's not a puppet. Neji observed carefully with his Byakugan. The two new individuals both have terrifying amounts of chakra. Nice to meet you too, would you like to come in? Kaido, looking at Obito and Nagato outside the formation, smiled and said. If you want to kill me, you'll probably have to come in. Fine, let's see what tricks you can play. Obito bravely stepped into the formation without any fear. Nagato silently followed him. They quickly approached Kaido, and Nagato's mechanical device landed on the ground. Have you been careless, Kaido? Nagato suddenly spoke. You didn't take the opportunity to destroy the bodies of Pain and Azura Path. As he spoke, Pain and Azura Path, who had previously fallen on the ground, suddenly stood up again, flashing into position in front of Nagato. Careless, or intentional? Obito removed the fan from his back and planted it on the ground. Since you sensed our presence and deliberately drew us out, it seems you are quite confident in yourself. Not bad. Kaido shyly smiled. Obito turned his gaze to Izuna and Chiri standing behind Kaido and asked. I remember the Uchiha clan shouldn't have so many people left, right? After all, you were also involved in the downfall of the Uchiha clan, weren't you? Kaito said meaningfully. You knew. Obito's lone eye showed naked venom. The Uchiha clan chose to betray me, and this was the fate they deserved. But where did you learn about it? From Itachi? It was Denzo. Oh, you collaborated with him, didn't you? Kaido's expression turned a bit strange. But, are you really Madara Uchiha, or just someone posing under that name? Obito stared intently at Kaido's expression, his hoarse voice carrying a murderous tone. Kid, you'll soon understand the terror that comes with the name Madara Uchiha. Kaido's expression suddenly became very animated. He glanced at Izuna, who was frowning, and mockingly laughed. If you're Madara Uchiha, why don't you recognize Izuna-senpai? Izuna? Obito paused for a moment, suddenly recalling something Madara Uchiha had once told him. Izuna Uchiha. That name was Madara's brother. Obito's reaction was quick, and he sinisterly looked at the smug Kaido, emphasizing. There's no need to fool me with an imposter. My brother Izuna, he has long been dead. PFFT. Seeing the vein throbbing on Izuna's forehead, Kaido couldn't help but laugh out loud. He jokingly said. Aren't you taking this too seriously, Obito? After Kaito spoke, the scene fell into a moment of silence. Obito's pupils widened in surprise for a moment, and then a tangible murderous intent erupted from him. However, since Nagato was also present, he still did not abandon his role, but said with anger. Who is Obito? My identity is not something a youngster like you can defame at will. Nagato watched Obito's back with cold eyes, thinking to himself that this was indeed the case. From the beginning, he and Konan had been wary of the elusive man before them. Although Obito quickly refuted Kaido's words earlier, Nagato still observed his subtle reaction, which instead confirmed that his identity was definitely not the Madara Uchiha he claimed to be. Faced with the murderous aura bursting from Obito, Kaido remained utterly unfazed, even emphasizing. Denial is useless, Obito. Since I can summon Izuna-senpai, I can also summon the real Madara Uchiha. Our cooperation, the ultimate goal is what matters, right, Nagato? Obito suddenly calmed down, turning his gaze to Nagato. Ah. Nagato nodded. Indeed, the cooperation with this man was to achieve Yahiko's ideals. As long as the purpose was achieved, his actual identity didn't really matter. However, what exactly would happen, they would only know once the goal was truly achieved. Nagato looked at Obito's back, his wariness increasing several folds. At this moment, Obito's apprehension towards Kaido had reached new heights. He picked up the fan in his hand and said. Originally, it was decided to eliminate you only because your Mengekyo Sharingan might hinder our plans, but now it's different. You must die here today. Ignoring Nagato's earlier request to personally take action, Obito, with the fan in one hand and the side linked to the fan in the other, charged forward. Nagato watched Obito's back, which carried a hint of desperation, and remained silent. Even Pain and Azura Path continued to stand their ground calmly. Although Nagato had confirmed the man's identity, he was still not very clear about his specific abilities. He only knew that he was proficient in space-time jutsu. At this moment, he suddenly decided to observe through Kaido's actions. Facing an unreliable partner, it was always best to gather more information about them. As Obito attacked, Kaido produced a dagger in his hand and drew it to meet the attack. His approach was noticeably faster than Obito's. In an instant, his blurred figure reached Obito. The tip of the dagger, shimmering coldly, thrust rapidly towards Obito's chest. Facing Kaido's thrust, Obito didn't parry but instead raised his scythe and continued charging forward. With his combat habits, Kaido would phase through his body due to the phasing ability brought by his Mengekyo Sharingan, and then he could take the opportunity to solidify and counterattack Kaido with a slash. However, when he calculated the distance and planned to enter the phasing state, he felt something was off. The density of space here was much greater than in the outside world. Normally, phasing for him was like diving into water, but now it felt like the water had turned into stone. At the critical moment, Obito leaned back, letting his body fall backwards. SST. The sound of a sword cutting through fabric and flesh rang out, followed by the splatter of blood. Chapter 61. Although Obito's falling motion allowed him to avoid being pierced through the heart, the sudden bright white light from the blade still left a deep wound on his body. As he fell to the ground, he ignored the flesh wounds and swung his scythe at Kaido's ankles. Kaido lightly jumped up, gracefully retreating to put some distance between them. Didn't expect that, did you? Kaido, with his right hand, performed a flourish with his knife, flicking off the blood on the blade, and looked at Obito, who had now stood up. But it's too late for regrets now, my formation has already sealed the space within it. He said with a mocking smile. Space-time abilities are indeed convenient, but for me, they are quite easy to counter. Obito remained silent for a moment, just watching Kaido with a cold gaze. Even without the space-time abilities granted by his Mengekyo Sharingan, his power was still formidable. But clearly, Kaido was no easy opponent either. Facing him one-on-one, Obito no longer had the assurance of an unscathed retreat. What was more alarming was that he was being targeted so specifically. His abilities, unknown to both Itachi and Denzo, how did Kaido come to know about them? Could it be? Obito recalled Kaido's earlier mention of summoning Madara Uchiha. Suddenly, many thoughts surfaced in his heart, and his wariness towards Kaido escalated to the highest level. This man's existence had too great an impact on his own plans. To fulfill his promise to Rin, he must at all costs eliminate Kaido today. Let me handle it, Obito. Nagato's voice suddenly came from behind him. Obito turned to look at Nagato, stubbornly emphasizing. I am Madara. Madara, let me take care of it here. Nagato casually corrected. He had realized that Obito, without his space-time abilities, was not confident in handling Kaido. This gave him a measure of Obito's capabilities. As for the identity issue, as long as Obito could continue to deceive others with Madara's identity, it was undoubtedly beneficial for their plan. With that settled, it wouldn't matter if he called him Madara, Hangako, Akemi, or Hashirama. Let's finish them off together, and quickly. Obito said. This operation has already dragged on too long. Eh? You want to team up now? Kaido sheathed his sword, a bit surprised. Not going to play around a bit more, Obito? Kid. Izuna's voice, tinged with anger, came through. I don't have the patience to keep playing these pointless games with you. Alright. Kaito somewhat disinterestedly curled his lip, his dagger disappeared, and he formed hand seals, somewhat regretfully saying. Sorry, I actually wanted to have some fun. Seniors, please step out and rest. From here on, I can handle it. A white light shone on Izuna and Chiri, and then they were moved outside the formation's range. Kaido looked at Obito and Nagato, continuing. Izuna-senpai has grown impatient. Let's make this quick. Shut up. Obito placed the fan back on his back and rapidly formed hand seals. Fire style, great fireball. Hot flames burst from his mouth, forming a giant fireball that hurtled towards Kaido, leaving a scorched trail on the ground. At the same time, Nagato also made his move. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Azura Path's wrists fired several missiles trailing flames. Faced with the pincer attack, Kaido did not move to dodge but formed hand seals again. 5 elements guard. 5 small pillars of light burst from the ground around him. Red, green, yellow, brown, blue, representing the 5 basic elements of the world. Fire, wind, lightning, earth, water. Consistent with the larger pillars of the 5 elements sealing barrier. The small pillars quickly formed a small pentagram formation around him, raising a barrier that successfully blocked the explosions of the fire-style, great fireball, and the missiles. At that moment, Heavenly Path Pain slowly rose into the air, stretching out his palm towards Kaido. Pay the price for offending a god, almighty push. A massive repulsive force collided with a barrier protecting Kaido, raising a cloud of dust. Due to the need to maintain a large 5 elements sealing barrier, Kaido had not summoned much of the 5 elements power. Soon, a crisp cracking sound followed, and as Nagato exerted full force, the 5 elements guard barrier was shattered. Universal pull. An invisible force of attraction appeared, acting on Kaido's body, trying to pull him towards pain. Kaido's body swayed, his aura surged, temporarily resisting the pull of the force. He closed his eyes, his clear voice rising. Hidden deep within the earth, the pulse of the planet, the stream of life's source, appear now, I beseech thy protection, swiftly as the law. As Kaido chanted, the sound of tides came from deep within the earth. Golden light seeped from the ground, gathering at his feet. A mist-like soft light flowed slowly, enveloping him gently like a light veil, effortlessly neutralizing the gravitational pull emitted by pain. Until Kaido was entirely bathed in gold, the air around him suddenly vibrated. Hum. The vibration quickly spread, instantly expanding to the entire range of the formation. Simultaneously, both Nagato and Obito felt their bodies heavily sink as the gravity within the formation suddenly increased several times. Pain began to destabilize in midair, as if invisible hands from the earth were pulling him down, forcing him to descend. Obito and Azure Path on the ground also found it difficult to stand for a moment. Kaido opened his eyes, his pentagram slowly rotating in his eyes, looking towards Obito and Nagato. To tell you the truth, having communicated with the dragon veins, I've gained the power granted by the earth to freely control the gravity of this place. He said with a smile, spreading his hands as if he held the winning ticket. So, how will you respond? As he spoke, the gravity inside the formation increased again. Creak, creak. Nagato's device and Azure Path, due to the abundance of metal, began to emit sounds of being overwhelmed. Nagato's frail body also began to face collapse. He commanded Heavenly Path to block in front of him, bursting forth with Almighty Push again. Although this temporarily countered the effects of gravity, Almighty Push could not be maintained indefinitely. Another solution must be found. Under the pressure of gravity, Obito was forced to crouch, his hands trembling as he struggled to form hand seals. Wood-style, piercing branch technique. Countless branches drilled out from the mud beneath his feet, continuously growing new branches. The dense, sharp branches quickly pierced towards Kaido. Chapter 62, It's Useless. Kaido Uchiha pressed down with a backhand, and a terrifying burst of gravity crushed all the branches into powder. Boom. Simultaneously, the almighty push cast by pain ceased, and the mechanical device under Nagato instantly shattered. He fell from the device, lying powerlessly on the ground. Obito, along with Pain and Azure Path, could no longer bear the burden. They crouched on the ground, barely supporting themselves with their hands to avoid lying down. I didn't expect this kid to have such a trick up his sleeve, Izuna said with interest from outside the formation. Unfortunately, the preparation time for this state is too long. Chiri smiled and said softly. This must be Kaido's first time using it in actual combat. This isn't even his final form yet, it's just unclear whether the technique he developed was successful. Oh? There's even greater version of this? Then I shall look forward to it. Obito watched as Kaido effortlessly destroyed his ninjutsu and pinned both him and Nagato to the ground, unable to move. A surge of intense hatred erupted within him. Why must you obstruct me? Why must you stop me from fulfilling my promise to Rin? This world is always like this, full of errors. Feeling the ghostly hatred emanating from Obito, Kaito walked up to him. He raised his hand, and several chains of spiritual energy emerged from his sleeve, binding Obito. I never thought you would become like this, Obito, he said with a hint of regret. I even doubted whether you were really Obito or just a demon born from the deceased Obito. Obito looked up, angrily saying, What are you talking about? Kaito smiled gently at him and continued. When we were children, I observed you out of curiosity. It's surprising that someone as lively and sunny as you came from the Uchiha clan. Back then, you were truly a pure and kind-hearted person. You. What do you know about me? Obito's voice was hoarse with emotion as he shouted. Don't act all high and mighty here, pointing fingers. I no longer have any expectations for this world. Those who obstruct me. His figure suddenly appeared behind Kaido, his scythe stabbing into Kaido's heart. Must die. Izanagi? Kaido's voice came from another direction, while the body in front of Obito instantly turned into a paper decoy. I wouldn't miss out on this ultimate illusion. Obito, struggling to maintain his posture, turned to look at Kaido and asked. What exactly is your purpose? It was you who came after me first, I haven't done anything. Kaido replied innocently. Hey, I won't believe there aren't any hidden motives behind your appearance. Obito retorted. But no matter what your intentions, today we must kill you here. Nagato. He turned back and shouted loudly at the weakened Nagato lying on the ground. What are you waiting for? Hearing Obito's call, Nagato shakily raised his head and propped himself up on his frail arms. He laboriously raised his right hand, heavily slapping it on the ground, causing a circle of runes to appear. Summoning, demonic statue of the outer path. Boom. The ground in front of Nagato shattered, and two gigantic hands emerged from the soil, striking the ground with tremendous force and sending numerous shards flying. Boom. Boom. Supported by the two gigantic hands, a massive creature composed of trees emerged from the soil, revealing its upper body. At last, it appeared. Kaido's lips curled up, he had been waiting for this moment. Everything was for extracting materials from the body of the divine tree. Roar. The creature known as the Outer Path statue raised its head, opened its mouth wide, and let out a deafening roar. A metal rod extended from its body and then branched out, connecting to the black rods behind Nagato. Ah! Nagato let out a painful scream as chakra mixed with life force surged through the black rods into the Outer Path statue. Roar. The Outer Path statue roared again, and from its tooth-filled mouth, an energy-formed dragon emerged. The dragon twisted its body through the air, rapidly heading towards Kaido. What is this? Kaido Uchiha looked solemnly at the dragon made of energy. This thing didn't bode well, it seemed to be lethally dangerous upon contact. However, the power from the dragon veins within him should be able to fend it off temporarily. With this thought, Kaido felt reassured. His spiritual power surged again, continuously drawing from the earth's dragon veins, causing his entire body to emit a dazzling golden light. The increasing golden energy swirled around his body, fending off the attacks from the Outer Path statue. The pentagram in his eyes began to spin rapidly, and his hands quickly formed seals. A blue skeletal framework of spiritual power appeared, enveloping him, and quickly grew muscles and flesh. Then, the golden energy also surged up, forming a thick armor that wrapped around his entire body. The giant clad in golden samurai armor emerged from the ground, slowly standing up, with Kaido's body rising slowly, settling in the space at the giant's forehead. Is that Kaido's Susanoo? Izuna looked up at the giant towering over 100 meters tall. It worked. Chiri smiled. That's the technique Kaido developed by combining the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan and the dragon veins. Because it seemed like it could dominate the mountains and the earth, it was named Oyamatsumi. At this moment, the successfully cast Kaido no longer needed to worry about the soul-draining energy dragon. He controlled the golden giant to raise its hands, making a fist motion towards the Outer Path statue. The earth stirred, and rocks and soil seemed to come alive, forming two hands larger than the upper body of the Outer Path statue, closing in on it. Roar. The Outer Path statue let out another terrifying roar, its hands spread open to resist the center of the rock giant's palms. Seeing the Outer Path statue temporarily trapped, Kaido quickly maneuvered Oyamatsumi forward, simultaneously raising a long naginata in his hands. Nagato. Obito, already lying on the ground, let out an urgent cry. The black rods behind Nagato suddenly retracted, pulling his body towards the chest of the Outer Path statue. During this process, Nagato let out a heart-wrenching scream. Subsequently, he was successfully pulled onto the body of the Outer Path statue, his lower body merging directly into the statue's body. At this moment, Kaido's Oyamatsumi had already advanced close to the Outer Path statue, the long naginata swinging down at its head. In the nick of time, Nagato commanded the Outer Path statue to raise its right hand. Its entire body emerged from the soil, withstanding a blow before breaking free from the encircling rocky hands, issuing an angry roar towards Oyamatsumi. Oyamatsumi's naginata was raised again, assuming an attack stance. For a moment, two colossal figures over 100 meters tall stood facing each other in the field. Chapter 63, above the great tree where the Leaf Village ninjas were positioned, the atmosphere was extremely tense. Guy-sensei. What is that? Rock Lee's voice was hoarse. That kind of power. That kind of enemy. How can we possibly fight it? The rest of the Genin also had blank expressions, their faces filled with despair, as if they had completely lost their faith. Kurenai looked at her students and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Unlike these Genin who were still at the beginning of their paths, she clearly knew just how terrifying the powerhouse within the ninja world could be, and how she, as a so-called Jonin, was no match for those monsters. However, because she had long accepted the reality that she could only reach this level, she did not lose her own faith. But these seedlings. They were all young and at an age full of drive and ambition, and such a blow might destroy their confidence. Have you lost confidence in yourself, Lee? Might Guy's stern voice rang out. What a foolish disciple. Don't forget everything you've gone through on your journey. You've grown from nothing to where you are now. Guy-sensei. Lee's eyes lit up, and tears uncontrollably streamed down his face. Yes, even if I was once worthless, I've grown to this point under Guy-sensei's tutelage. I just need to keep moving forward with unwavering determination. Next, I will become even stronger. Sorry, Guy-sensei. I understand now, my efforts haven't been in vain. I won't be confused anymore, I will continue to strive and become stronger. As if inspired, the expressions of the other genin also returned to normal. Well said, Lee. Might Guy, with tears in his eyes, gave Lee a thumbs up. That's youth. The two of them, regardless of the situation, stood on the tree branch and embraced, weeping together. The members of Team 8 all looked at a somewhat embarrassed Neji and Tenten with curious eyes. As if asking, what's wrong with these two people in your team? Inside the Oyamatsumi, Kaido watched the outer path statue roaring towards him, feeling somewhat excited. Am I finally facing the divine tree? Even though it's a weakened version. It's like taking advantage of someone's crisis, he thought. The outer path statue, because it had no energy of its own, could only barely maintain itself with Nagato's chakra and life force. One can imagine how much it paled in comparison to the fully realized Ten-Tail's divine tree. And when Nagato could no longer hold on, the summoning would disappear. Time was of the essence. He maneuvered the Oyamatsumi to charge forward again, the Naginata in his hands powerfully slicing towards the neck of the outer path statue. The outer path statue dodged sideways, raising its fist to strike fiercely at the head of the Oyamatsumi. Oyamatsumi retracted the Naginata, blocking the fist of the outer path statue, and then raised a foot to kick at its abdomen. The outer path statue staggered back a few steps, roaring before charging forward again. The two giants, towering over 100 meters tall, engaged in a back-and-forth battle on the plain. The ear-splitting sounds of their collisions constantly echoed, causing the entire area to be shrouded in flying sand and shaking grounds. However, due to Nagato's prolonged manipulation of the six paths of pain and their continuous use of various jutsus, which were now being siphoned by the outer path statue, even Nagato, with the Uzumaki clan's unique constitution, was at the end of his chakra reserves. Moreover, under the influence of gravity, the movements of the outer path statue had become increasingly sluggish, occasionally being wounded by the Naginata wielded by Oyamatsumi. Kaido frowned as he looked at the wounds on the outer path statue. Though the divine tree's shell had lost its powerful chakra, its inherent vitality was still astonishing, and those wounds were continuously healing themselves. This way, gathering materials would be impossible. Not to mention how much longer Nagato could hold on, even Kaido himself, as it was his first time using Oyamatsumi, was unable to control it in battle for an extended period. This couldn't go on. Kaido and Nagato's thoughts aligned at that moment. Ha! Nagato roared, his veins bulging as he exerted all his strength to extract every bit of chakra from his body. Dragon Vein's blessing. Kaido formed hand seals, and a continuous stream of power was drawn from the earth beneath his feet, causing the gold covering Oyamatsumi's entire body to become even more dazzling. Roar! The outer path statue roared skyward, spewing numerous wooden spikes like a rain of arrows. At the same time, its arms suddenly elongated, extending numerous large branches that agilely wrapped around Oyamatsumi. Oyamatsumi crouched slightly, then sprang up powerfully, using its armor to fend off the wooden spikes and leaped over the encroaching branches to reach the top of the outer path statue's head. Boom! Simultaneously, the earth and rocks beneath the feet of the outer path statue churned again, wrapping around it like giant pythons. Crack! A breaking sound echoed. As Oyamatsumi's Naginata, carrying tremendous gravity, descended from the sky, several thick tree trunks on the back of the outer path statue were cleanly severed. Success! Kaido's lips curled up, and he controlled Oyamatsumi to leap again, dodging the winding branches and landing farther away. Cough! Cough, cough. Nagato continuously coughed up blood, the branches rushing toward Oyamatsumi withered and fell off, and the outer path statue finally quieted down. It seems I have won in the end, Kaito said with a smile in his voice. It's a pity, you couldn't kill me, and instead, you're going to die here. Cough, cough, cough. Nagato had now completely turned into a skeleton wrapped in a thin layer of skin, blood constantly spewing from his mouth as he still looked at Kaito with cold eyes, shouting with all his strength, Obito! Obito? In the distance, as former classmates of Obito at the Ninja Academy, Might Guy and Kurenai, hearing Nagato's shout, stared dumbfounded at the masked man lying on the ground. How is this possible? Kurenai muttered. Obito was clearly already sacrificed. Damn. I can't understand this at all. Might Guy clenched his fist. If Obito has truly become an enemy, what about Kakashi? Whether or not to tell Kakashi, this should be left to the Hokage to decide. Kurenai recalled Kakashi's usual demeanor and also furrowed her brows with worry. That's all we can do now. Might Guy couldn't help but worry for his good friend. Following Nagato's shout, the ground stirred again, several branches extending from the feet of the outer path statue emerged from the soil, hanging numerous tattered paper talismans. The 5 giant pillars of light extinguished, and the large formation surrounding the plane slowly dissipated. Simultaneously, the gravity in the area also significantly lightened. I've said it before, I am Madara Uchiha. A spiral of spatial fluctuation arose, and Obito's figure slowly emerged beside Nagato, still insisting on his identity. However, Nagato no longer had the strength to deal with him. Bang! Dust filled the air, the outer path statue disappeared, and Nagato began to fall powerlessly towards the ground. TSK. Obito's figure flashed, appearing beneath Nagato to catch him. At this time, Kaido also dispelled the Oyamatsumi technique, gracefully landing next to Izuna and Chiri. Chapter 64, Obito Uchiha struggled to hold on to Nagato as he fell to the ground, casting an unwilling look towards Kaido Uchiha and the other two. Kaido, noticing his gaze, even seemed to give him a gentle smile. Watching Kaido's unperturbed demeanor, a surge of killing intent involuntarily emanated from Obito. He knew that Nagato had already lost his ability to fight and that it would be very difficult for him to defeat those 3 on his own. Especially since his information had already been grasped by the opponent, making it even more unlikely. The spiral-shaped spatial distortion appeared again, and Obito focused his gaze on Nagato, whom he was carrying on his shoulder. Nagato's body gradually disappeared, absorbed into the different space attached to Obito's ocular jutsu. At that moment, Nagato managed to speak with difficulty. Take pain away. Ugh, I know. Obito replied somewhat impatiently. He still needed to cooperate with Nagato at this stage, so he did not contradict Nagato's request. After Nagato's figure disappeared, he then turned his gaze towards Pain. Leaving just like that, Obito? Kaido's voice came. At the same time, several kunai flew towards Obito from tricky angles. As Pain's figure disappeared, Obito gave Kaido and the kunai throwing Izuna a sinister look. Kaido, you win this time, but you might not be so lucky next time. Shoo. 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 The kunai passed through his body, hitting the ground behind him. Now able to use his space-time ocular jutsu again, Obito regained his composure. But I've always been lucky from a young age. Kaido cheerfully said. Obito's figure also began to fade with the spatial distortion as he glared at Kaido. We'll see about that. Is he gone? Kaido touched his chin, looking towards the abandoned Shura path. Can I take this thing for research? As for the other bodies of the 6 paths of pain, they had already been caught in the crossfire between Oyamatsumi and the demonic statue of the outer path, either buried in the mud or destroyed beyond recognition. Izuna glanced at him disdainfully and said. You're not a puppeteer, why study that thing? The thermal weapons on it are quite nice. Kaido explained. But even though I say that, I actually don't understand those things, might as well just sell it. Whatever you want. Clang. The sound of metal colliding rang out as Izuna's ninja blade blocked a scythe that suddenly appeared behind Kaido. You're really not giving up, kid. He forcefully pushed Obito away, who had attacked suddenly, his blade swiftly moving towards his neck. At the same time, the nearby Chiri also moved, his blade swiftly stabbing towards Obito's chest. Whoosh! The ninja blade sliced through Obito's body without any resistance. Ugh, such an annoying ability. Izuna looked at Obito with some irritation. Nagato looked really frightening just now, if this continues, he'll be completely ruined. Kaido's voice suddenly rang out. Aren't you going to rush to his aid, Obito? Humphrey. Obito knew Kaido was telling the truth, and he still couldn't discard Nagato as a pawn. He had to go back first. With one last murderous glance at Kaido, Obito disappeared again from the 3's sight. He should really be gone this time. Kaido said with interest. But given Nagato's current condition, treatment will probably be very difficult. He and Chiri discussed. As far as I know, the best candidates capable of treating him would be Tsunade and Orochimaru. Tsunade, being the Hokage, obviously won't do it. As for Orochimaru, he'd probably just try to take the Rinnegan directly. But, what does that matter to me? He then walked towards a tree trunk he had chopped down from the demonic statue of the outer path. Let me tally up my gains. He approached a large tree trunk, placed his hand on the bark, and closed his eyes to sense. He could clearly sense that although the trunk had been severed from the divine tree's shell, it still contained a vibrant life force within. Truly befitting of a divine tree, such strong vitality. He mused excitedly to himself. This really is top-notch material. He took out a stack of talismans from his hand, threw them into the air, and then formed hand seals. The talismans scattered in the air and, under his control, stuck to all the trunks. Then, he pulled out a vibrant green twig from his sleeve and planted it in the ground. Wood clone. As he formed seals again, the green twig quickly sprouted and grew into a towering tree. An old man's face emerged from the bark. Mo-sama. Kaido greeted the face on the bark. Is it you, Kaido? What do you need help with? Mo's clone opened its eyes and asked with a smile. Mo-sama, take a look at this. Kaido patted the talisman-covered trunk beside him. These were chopped from the divine tree's shell. Oh? Mo's clone took a closer look at the trunks, couldn't help but extend a branch to probe, and then said. Indeed, it comes from the divine tree, entirely different from my branches. It no longer belongs to the category of plants. It should be called a demon, or perhaps the final weapon of the Otsutsuki clan. Kaito nodded and said. But this time, borrowing Mo-sama's power, I'd like you to help transport these trunks back to Oyama Mountain. They are my precious materials. There were about 10 huge trunks, each with a diameter exceeding his height. Kaido thought happily, soon he could make countless paper human vessels. No problem. Mo's clone agreed to Kaido's request. Thick roots emerged from the soil, wrapped all the trunks, and dragged them into the ground. And this. Kaido took out a large scroll from his sleeve and passed it over. Please deliver this to Sasuke. Mo's clone extended a branch to roll up the scroll, then said. Then I will be going back now. The face on the bark gradually disappeared, and the huge tree rapidly shrank, transforming back into a green twig in an instant and disappearing into the ground. All set. Kaido watched where the twig had vanished, satisfied, clapping his hands. He took out a wooden whistle and blew into it, producing a sound that pierced the skies. Gyur gyur gyur. I'm coming, Gyur. Gyur's voice came from the distant woods. It flapped its wings and swiftly arrived in front of Kaido. Its round, sparkling eyes looked up at Kaido, exclaiming. Kaido, I didn't expect you to be so powerful, even able to summon a mountain god. Good to hear. Kaido patted its head. Hurry up and grow larger, we're setting off. Soon, Gyur was carrying Kaido and 2 others, clutching the body of the Azure Path, and flew into the high sky. Kaido sat on Gyur's back, looking back with a secretive smile. The ninjas of Hidden Leaf Village, huh? Good, they too should learn more. The stage set up by the Akatsuki organization will also inevitably involve these ninja villages. Only if they take the lead in charging into the fray, can he comfortably strategize from the rear. Chapter 65, After Gyur's figure disappeared into the clouds, Might Guy led the Leaf Village ninjas down from the great tree and rushed towards the battlefield. Just now. Hinata hesitated. That person seemed to glance back at us. What? Were we spotted? Kiba sniffed alertly. Could they suddenly appear and ambush us? You're too nervous, Kiba. Shino said calmly. What did you say? I'm just more vigilant, that's all. Alright, Kiba. Kurenai turned back to look at her student. This is a mission, you just need to follow Guy-sensei's orders. Yes. Soon, the group arrived at a battlefield that had been completely devastated. Looking at the huge craters scattered across the plain, Tenten couldn't help but shrink back a bit and exclaimed. What level of destructive power is this? It's really more terrifying up close. Alright, you guys. Might Guy stood with his hands on his hips and issued orders to the Geinin. Neji and Hinata are responsible for using the Byakugan to locate all bodies buried underground, then everyone get to work and dig them out. What? Tenten's voice trembled. Dig up bodies? Hinata also turned pale, looking somewhat at a loss as she glanced towards Kurenai. This is something you must experience as a ninja. Kurenai said sternly. If you can't handle dealing with bodies now, how will you fight enemies in the future? As far as I know, the boys have already had experiences killing enemies during the mission to retrieve Sasuke. If you don't want to fall behind, then get moving quickly. Only me. Shino, annoyed, adjusted the sunglasses on his nose. What? Kiba looked at him curiously. Shino's body emitted a sinister black aura as he stated word by word, the mission to retrieve Sasuke, I was the only one who didn't go. What? Shino, you really care about that, haha. Arf arf. Above the sea of clouds, Gyur's massive body was flying swiftly. Where are we going now? Izuna asked. Across the vast desert of the Land of Wind, to a place called Durin, which is a node of the Ryumyaku. Kaido explained. I sensed during my communication with the Ryumyaku that, about a decade ago, someone traveled back from the future to the past, attempting to completely seize the power of the Ryumyaku in Murin. Back to the past? Izuna was surprised. Kaito nodded affirmatively. Since a millennium ago when the Otsutsuki clan used the divine tree to extract part of the Ryumyaku power, it has always been in a weakened and chaotic state. If you happen to encounter one of its energy tides, it is possible to traverse time and space. Although the person who returned to the past has been killed, The dragon vein node in Murin was also sealed. Kaido continued to explain. This situation obstructs the energy cycle in the Ryumyaku, causing disorder in the Earth's pulse, and I must go there to sort it out. He smiled again, somewhat eagerly saying, also, we can take the opportunity to sell that puppet to the Hidden Sand Village, it should fetch a good price. That might not work, Kaido. Chiri spoke up. From what I've inadvertently learned in Hidden Leaf Village, the Hidden Sand Village and the current daimyo of the Land of Wind are not on good terms. The daimyo has even cut the village's funding several times, so they probably don't have much money now. Is that so? That's really unfortunate. Kaito said with some disappointment. Then we'll sell it to the black market. Hidden Leaf Village. After several days of hectic work, Tsunade had finally largely resolved the chaos brought about by Kaito and his group infiltrating Hidden Leaf Village. At this moment, she was enjoying a rare moment of relaxation, leaning back on a couch and resting her eyes. In recent days, due to Denzo's actions being inadvertently exposed among some of the ninjas in Hidden Leaf Village, she had to compromise with the ninja clans in the village during negotiations. Fortunately, she wasn't a Hokage with a strong desire for power. She took on the role out of love for the village founded by her grandfather and a desire to carry forward the dreams of her late brother and lover. This time, although she opened up some power to those ninja clans, she, as the new Hokage, also gained their full support. But it was her, a medical ninja, who had saved countless lives on the battlefield in her early years and, with the legacy of the first Hokage, had unparalleled prestige in Hidden Leaf Village, that could quickly calm the situation. If someone else had encountered this trouble shortly after becoming Hokage, who knows what consequences would have arisen. Knock, 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 the sound of knocking came. Come in. Tsunade opened her eyes and called out. Lady Tsunade. Shizune, along with Might Guy and Kurenai, walked in. Tsunade stood up, walked behind her desk, and sat down, beginning. Guy, Kurenai, you're back. Was the mission completed? I'm very sorry, Lady Tsunade, there was an unexpected issue during the mission. Might Guy bowed deeply, beginning to recount the experiences of the mission, with Kurenai adding a few words now and then. TSK. After hearing their account, Tsunade felt her headache starting again. Shizune, who was also a classmate of theirs at the Ninja Academy, asked in surprise. Really, was it Obito? Are you sure? We didn't confirm that. Kurenai shook her head. He was always wearing a mask, only his right eye was visible. It was that right eye. Might Guy emphasized. Exactly, Obito also gave his left eye to Kakashi. Let's put this issue aside for now. Tsunade stood up and said. Let's go examine the bodies you brought back first. As she spoke, she walked towards the office door. Shizune, go notify Ibiki. Yes, Lady Tsunade. These days, Kakashi noticed something unusual. Guy, who was always enthusiastic to run up to him, had become strange since returning from a mission. The person who usually couldn't hide anything and whose guilty, sneaky demeanor made him unbearable to watch, was now avoiding them. Had something happened that couldn't be told to him? Kakashi concluded. One day, as Might Guy was going about his usual exercise routine around Hidden Leaf Village, he suddenly saw a familiar figure far away. It's Kakashi. His face changed color, he looked around and found no obstacles, and in his urgency, he used the teleportation jutsu to duck behind some bushes. Watching Kakashi walk away through the leaves, he couldn't help but wipe the sweat from his forehead and let out a big sigh of relief. Hey, what are you up to? Kakashi's voice suddenly came from behind him. Ahahaha. Might Guy jumped in fright, turned around stiffly, and said with a forced laugh. Is there something you need, Kakashi? If anyone needs something, it's you. Kakashi said dryly, watching the sweat beads continuously form on his forehead. Why are you avoiding me? No, no, no. Might Guy waved his hands repeatedly. I'm not avoiding telling you that Obito is still alive because I'm afraid you'd be upset. Kakashi looked stunned at Might Guy, who was covering his mouth wide-eyed. After a while, his voice slightly hoarse, he asked. What are you talking about, Guy? Chapter 66, Kakashi eventually learned everything from Might Guy. After knowing, he was completely engulfed in confusion. Was that really Obito? He couldn't connect the silly young boy from his memories with the masked man described by Guy. Yet, as he touched his left eye through his forehead protector, a strong intuition arose within him. That person was very likely Obito. But if Obito hadn't died initially, why had he never appeared all these years and instead joined an organization of rogue ninjas like Akatsuki? Perhaps Obito was no longer the boy he once knew. Time had completely severed his understanding of Obito. As for why it turned out this way, deep down he already had an answer. Rin. He couldn't help but recall the girl who had willingly gone to her death. Old scars were reopened, He felt as if the sticky sensation of blood was still on his hands, and his heart, thought to be numb, began to ache faintly again. Kakashi walked somewhat dazedly, as if he hadn't heard Might Guy's anxious voice behind him. Unconsciously, he had reached the memorial stone and then stood there blankly. Tsunade watched Kakashi's dispirited back and sighed inwardly. No wonder Might Guy had rushed to her for help. But what could she really say? As a ninja, who is luckier than whom? Everyone has come along a path accompanied by blood and tears. There's no more time for you to be dejected, Kakashi. Tsunade approached him and spoke somewhat sternly. Lady Hokage. Kakashi's eyes were somewhat lifeless. Tsunade continued. The true nature of the situation is still unclear. But the intelligence brought back by Guy and others has already shown that the Akatsuki organization is more difficult to deal with than we imagined. Unfortunately, there's no longer any information in the brains of those bodies. And there's the stance of Kaido Uchiha. Kakashi perked up a bit. I hadn't realized before that his strength had reached such a level. It seems strange now. Indeed, considering the immense strength of Kaido and those two, their actions in Hidden Leaf Village were quite restrained. Tsunade mused. Plus, since they are also enemies of Akatsuki, perhaps they might have some information we don't know about. But now we can't locate them, let alone establish contact. Kakashi said helplessly. He was more eager than Tsunade to find Kaido because he felt that Kaido might know the information about that masked man. I'll send a message to Jiraiya about the Akatsuki and Uchiha, hoping that his experience might unearth some information. Tsunade turned and walked a few steps towards the exit of the cemetery, then stopped and looked back at Kakashi. Kakashi, you are a Hidden Leaf Village elite, cheer up. And when Naruto returns from his training, he will still be under your guidance, so don't get surpassed by your own student. Maybe he really will surpass me, that kid Naruto. Kakashi turned around, smiling, back to his usual self. Humphrey, then just wait to be embarrassed. Seeing that Kakashi had returned to normal, Tsunade also let go of her concerns. She knew he was just temporarily suppressing everything, but that was enough. As a ninja, one must endure everything. As long as one can keep moving forward, that's enough. In the vast desert, where relentless sandstorms raged and the landscape was dry and desolate, Kaido, although fully prepared and carrying a lot of water, still ended up looking quite disheveled by the time he and Gyur reached their destination. Yes, just him and Gyur. After entering the territory of the Land of Wind, Izuna clearly expressed that he didn't want to follow Kaido around eating sand and then curled up in the paper puppet to fall asleep. Kaido had no choice but to let Chiri also retire to rest. What kind of place is this? I'm a demon who lives in the forest. Kaido, you bastard. I never want to come to the Land of Wind again. Gyur landed and immediately transformed into human form, pointing at Kaido and complaining loudly. Hard work, hard work. Kaido patted his head and looked up at the vast ruins before him. Is this Ruin? Gyur frowned. It looks like there are no humans left here. With no Ramyaku energy source to utilize, this place's decline was inevitable. Kaido led the way into the ruins. Let's go in. Kaido. Why is it so barren here? Gyur ran a few steps to catch up. Aren't Ramyaku the source of life? Kaido looked around as he explained. Ramyaku are the source that nurtures life on a planet, constantly circulating within the earth. They naturally have no nodes. What's the deal here then? Gyur asked, more curious. You should be able to guess. Kaido hinted. Gyur thought for a moment, his brow furrowing. Because of the 10 tails? Kaido nodded and continued explaining. 1,000 years ago, the Otsutsuki clan deployed the divine tree from beyond this world here. Since then, the divine tree has ceaselessly drawn energy from the earth, inflicting severe damage and gradually turning the entire land into a desert. Even today, the energy of the Ramyaku still leaks from the wounds. I see. So after it turned into a desert, it couldn't recover? Gyur, being a nature-loving demon, looked at the scene with some heartache. Kaido smiled understandingly. It can recover, but it's difficult. How so? Gyur immediately looked at him with hopeful eyes. The Ramyaku of a planet are an entire system, so the first step would probably involve clearing the entire Ramyaku system. Kaido chuckled. Gyur instantly wilted, speaking listlessly. Who could possibly do that? Even Mo-sama, a plant demon, couldn't manage it. Indeed, no one could. Kaido said aloud, though internally he was very confident. One day, he believed he would reach that level. Since discovering his unique abilities as a child, he had always maintained this immense confidence. If he wanted to do something, it naturally followed that he could achieve it. That was his true belief. There. Kaido sensed the direction of the Ramyaku node and sped up. The two swiftly navigated through the ruins and soon arrived at a cave entrance. This should be it. Kaido led the way into the depths of the cave. Descending the stairs, they quickly reached an abyss on the underground edge. It's right there. Without stopping, Kaido crossed the walkway suspended in the air and arrived at a platform in the center of the abyss. In the center of the platform was an altar with 4 statues. In the middle of the altar, surrounded by spells, was an eye-shaped bas-relief, and a uniquely shaped shuriken was embedded in the eye of the relief. This shuriken. It seems characteristic of Minato no Mikaze. Kaido observed closely. Could this place have been sealed by him? No wonder. Chapter 67, Minato no Mikaze was truly a genius. This seal successfully utilized the power of the Ryoku itself. Kaido carefully observed the sealing jutsu in front of him. So even though it has been over a decade, this seal has not weakened at all. Are you going to break the seal, Kaido? Gear curiously looked at the shuriken-shaped sealing formation on the ground. Kaido shook his head. We can't rashly undo it, otherwise the sealed Ryoku energy might burst out suddenly, leading to unforeseen consequences. What kind of consequences? Kaito smiled mysteriously. It might even take us to the past or the future, who knows? Really? Gear's eyes sparkled as he leaned closer. That sounds like fun. Forget it. Kaido gently pushed him away. While traveling through time might be an incredible journey, it would disrupt my plans. Gear pouted and sat down on the ground. What a drag. So, what are you going to do now? I need to improve on this seal. Because the divine tree originally drew out energy, the Ryoku energy tends to flow outward due to inertia. We can't just block it, we need to guide it as well. Kaito squatted down, muttering to himself while taking out paper and pen to start calculating, becoming completely engrossed in his own world. Not this again. Gear looked at his back somewhat helplessly, grumbling. Fine, I'll reluctantly keep watch for you. Uchiha residence, on the mountain. I'm back. Sasuke said, pushing open the door with a large scroll on his back. Welcome back, Sasuke-kun. Yuri boredly lay on the living room floor, looking up and saying. It's so boring being here alone every day. It's your choice to stay at my house all the time, Uncle isn't even here. Sasuke glanced at her and went straight to the coffee table to set down the scroll behind him, then poured himself a glass of water. Humphrey, I'm going to stay right here until Kaido comes back. Yuri rolled on the floor. I don't care about that. Sasuke ignored her, drank his water, then placed the scroll on the floor and performed a hand seal. Release. Bang. A stack of neatly arranged books and scrolls appeared before him. Sasuke picked up an envelope from the top, labeled with his name. What's this? Yuri came closer, her expression changing upon seeing the letter in Sasuke's hands. Is that from Kaido? Did someone bring it back for him? Yeah. Sasuke nodded. Yuri stretched out her hand towards Sasuke. What? Sasuke looked at her, puzzled. Flushing, Yuri smiled. Where's my letter? Give it to me. There's no letter for you. Sasuke turned away and began to open his letter. That can't be. Yuri froze. It can't be. Kaito knows I'm waiting for him. That night when I got hurt, Kaito was so gentle when he carried me to the room. Sasuke put away the letter, looking at her speechlessly, his ears red. I don't need to know about you adults stuff. Don't talk about that in front of me. Then, he quickly resealed all the documents, picked up the scroll, and ran off to the study. Humphrey, this kid really gets embarrassed easily. Yuri watched Sasuke's retreating back and complained, then flopped back onto the floor, rolling around. That damn Kaido, forgetting to write me a letter. She pounded the floor in frustration, then suddenly changed her demeanor and laughed. No, Kaido must be waiting to meet me in dreams. I got it. Hey, just you wait, I'll definitely show you. In the study, Sasuke carefully read the letter from Kaido. After a while, a complex expression appeared on his face. He set down the letter and stared blankly at his hands. Uncle had already punished those high-ups in Hidden Leaf Village, killed the man named Denzo, and recovered the Uchiha clan's relics. The rest were Itachi and that man called Obito. He clenched his fists, stormy emotions brewing in his eyes. Next time, I must do it myself. After a while, he undid the seal again and took out all the documents from the scroll, touching the fresh paper. This was the knowledge passed down by the Uchiha ancestors. Unfortunately, it was no longer those ancient originals, he thought regretfully. This is. He picked up a scroll marked with a spiral symbol and opened it. Uzumaki clans. Thinking of Naruto, he wondered how he was doing with his training. I won't let you surpass me. Sasuke said with a confident smile. Next time we meet, I'll definitely show you the difference between us. He walked to the desk, spread out the papers, and picked up a brush to start writing a letter. I'll have Uncle give Naruto a copy of the Uzumaki stuff, although I'm sure that idiot won't understand those complicated sealing techniques. I just don't want to take advantage of that dead last, he firmly thought. Ryoku node. Kaido finally showed a satisfied smile and stretched lazily. Kaido, are you done studying? I'm starving. Gyor saw Kaido's movements and hurriedly stood up, eagerly looking at him. Sorry, I lost track of time when I get focused. Kaido apologized with a smile, handing him a pack of jerky. Here, eat this. Gyor cheered, grabbed the jerky with one hand and started stuffing his face with the other. Kaido shook his head, turned back, and picked up a brush to start adding new spells on the Rumyaku seal. Though he only drew a few strokes, the entire seal immediately changed. All the spells lit up one by one, the new spells smoothly integrated into the flow, and the whole formation shifted from a shuriken shape to Kaido's usual pentagram seal. Hum. A deep sound emerged, causing the entire platform to tremble slightly, and golden light suddenly lit up from beneath the abyss. What's happening? Is it collapsing? Gyor, with jerky in his mouth, looked around nervously. It's okay, it will stabilize soon. Kaito walked to the edge of the platform, calmly looking down into the abyss. Sure enough, after a while, the golden light that emerged slowly extinguished, and everything returned to calm. Is that it? I can't feel any change. Gyor asked, somewhat puzzled. That's how it is, the Rumyaku has calmed down, but now I'll need your help. Kaido handed a piece of talisman paper to Gyor, instructing. I need to communicate further and completely with the Rumyaku. If my body undergoes any changes during the process, please stick this talisman on me to wake me up. No problem. Gyor took the talisman paper and nodded. Leave it to me. It's in your hands now. Kaido turned back to the ceiling formation, sat down cross-legged, formed hand seals, and closed his eyes. Chapter 68, Kaido felt his consciousness detach from his body, continually sinking into endless darkness. In the pure darkness, he gradually lost his sense of time and space, focusing solely on maintaining a tranquil state of mind. After an indeterminate amount of time, a faint light appeared before him. It was a light like the sun, golden in color but much softer than sunlight, gentle enough that it didn't hurt his eyes even in the pure darkness. Closer and closer. Kaido felt himself drawing nearer to the light source yet was never able to touch it. Time passed unknowingly, and the light grew brighter, its source finally revealing itself before his eyes. It was a winding river, its golden waters flowing quietly, casting halos of light in the darkness. The moment Kaito saw the river, a warmth enveloped his entire body. Unlike the warmth of sunlight on his skin, this warmth felt as though it penetrated every cell of his body, irresistibly captivating. Kaito walked towards the golden river uncontrollably, overwhelmed by a strong urge to merge completely with the golden waters. At the Rumyaku seal. Gyor held the talisman paper, watching Kaido's back with some anxiety. While Rumyaku were known as the source of life, they were extremely dangerous for any creature that approached them without caution. Gyor had heard from older yokai that creatures who got too close to a Rumyaku would become obsessed and slowly assimilated by it, eventually forgetting everything about themselves and returning to the most primitive form of life. The only outcome was to merge completely into the Rumyaku, which Gyor found terrifying. At that moment, a faint golden light began to radiate from Kaido's body. Gyor knew this meant he was nearing the Rumyaku. He watched Kaido's body intently, holding his breath, his hands inching closer with the talisman paper. As the golden light on Kaito intensified and his skin began to appear translucent, it seemed as though he was about to melt away. Without waiting any longer, Gyor quickly applied the talisman paper to his body. Phew. Ha. Kaito suddenly opened his eyes, propping himself up on his hands as if he had just been rescued from drowning, gasping for air. Are you alright, Kaito? Gyor asked worriedly as he crouched beside him. Kaito gestured with his hand and continued to catch his breath. After a while, he recovered, his voice tinged with relief. Thank you, Gyor. I was almost assimilated by the Rumyaku. No problem. So, how do you feel? What was the Rumyaku like? Gyor asked curiously. Kaito frowned slightly, beginning to describe his experience. I only saw a golden river, incredibly beautiful. The moment I saw it, my mind went blank, and I was drawn to it uncontrollably. This is entirely different from the limited communication with the Rumyaku we've practiced before. He said, somewhat troubled. No wonder the ancient texts always warned not to attempt it lightly. Gyor shuddered and asked quietly. Are you going to try again? Yes. Kaito asserted confidently. If someone succeeded in ancient times, I can too. But. Gyor hesitated. There's only been one person in legend who succeeded. It's too difficult. I will succeed. Kaito stated with conviction. After resting for a while, he began his second attempt. Gyor had no choice but to nervously hold the talisman paper, his eyes glued to Kaito. He was afraid he wouldn't react quickly enough to wake him when needed. Although Kaito's second attempt lasted longer, it still ended in failure. Not just the second time, But over the next few days, he tried dozens of times, all ending in failure. Worse, although he initially lasted longer each time, his endurance began to decrease. Kaito knew his impatience was growing, so he forced himself to stop the futile attempts. He began to leave the underground space of the Ryumyaku node, wandering aimlessly through the ruins of Lulan or standing on abandoned buildings to watch the sunrise and sunset over the desert, clearing his mind of all thoughts. After a few days, he felt his inner peace restored. Yet, he did not rush into new attempts, instead choosing to have fun with Gyur, exploring the ruins, observing various desert fauna and flora, and even cooking scorpions and lizards to eat. Though most ended up in Gyur's stomach. 2 days later, after a complete break, he continuously reflected on each of his experiences with the dragon vein. Finally, regaining full confidence, he began a new round of attempts. When the Golden River appeared before him again, his heart remained as still as an ancient well, and he firmly stepped into the water. At that moment, he felt his consciousness split in two. Half flowed with the river into the vast expanse, seemingly crossing endless time, acutely feeling the planet's breath. The other half remained fixed in place, like an anchor. After an indeterminate period, the indescribable sensations gradually receded, and his consciousness returned to the starting point. Has someone succeeded again? Congratulations, young man. A voice came from the river. The voice was soft and elegant, though its tone was ancient. Kaito, surprised, looked at the river and asked. Who? Can the Ryumyaku talk? With a light laugh, the Golden River slowly rose, forming a human shape. Then, the river-formed figure gradually lost its watery essence and turned into a man dressed in ancient attire. He wore a tall black hat and a pristine white hunting robe, holding a fan and smiling. Kaito, recognizing him from paintings he had seen, exclaimed in amazement. Are you Lord Seimai? The man nodded with a smile. Hello, I am Abe no Seimai. Fun fact, Abe no Seimai is a real person. At that moment, Kaito felt his mind whirl. This person was none other than the famous Onmyoji from 1,000 years ago, Abe no Seimai, the only one in legend to have truly communicated with the Ryumyaku. According to records, this unparalleled Onmyoji had mysteriously disappeared just before the advent of the Divine Tree and Kaguya Otsutsuki, leaving behind endless speculations and theories. Some even suspected that the Otsutsuki had secretly eliminated this powerful Onmyoji before their move. Kaito never expected to meet him here. I guess you have many questions. Seimai said, waving his fan leisurely. Don't worry, I will answer all your doubts. Kaito smiled in return. Hello, Lord Seimai. I am Kaito Uchiha. His heart was filled with joy. He hadn't anticipated such a turn of events in his attempt to communicate with the Ryumyaku, sensing that this experience would be far more rewarding than he had initially imagined. Indeed, he had always been a lucky person. Chapter 69, I know you, Lord Kaito. Seimai tightened his grasp on the cypress fan in his right hand and tapped it against the palm of his left hand. However, I really did not expect that a physique like yours would emerge among the descendants of the Otsutsuki. Kaito did not show any surprise but merely responded. It is truly as expected of Lord Seimai, knowing everything indeed. Seimai smiled and unfolded his fan, covering the lower half of his face. Spending long years here alone has become rather boring, so observing humanity has turned into a hobby. He said with some emotion. Originally, I hoped to die a natural death as a human, but alas, things did not go as I wished. Kaito followed up on his remark, asking. May I inquire, what exactly happened back then? Seimai tightened his grip on the fan, a nostalgic expression crossing his face. It starts from the beginning. I am all ears. Kaito bowed formally. The four paths of Onmyoji. Seimai lightly tapped his cypress fan in the air, illuminating several lines of golden text. These were the names of the four paths of Onmyoji, the path of yin and yang, the path of astronomy, the path of calendar, and the path of timekeeping. Kaito nodded in agreement. Seimai continued. Although I have dabbled in all four paths, my true expertise lies in the path of astronomy. Kaito seemed to understand and added. So, you had already predicted the Otsutsuki invasion through your observations of the stars. Correct. Seimai looked at him approvingly. I too had hoped to eliminate this disaster in advance, but ultimately, I was insufficient. Seimai began to share the secrets of what had happened back then, and Kaito listened quietly without interruption. It turned out that after Seimai predicted the impending invasion from outsiders, he did not inform anyone but prepared to face the disaster alone. I had indeed become too complacent amid my fame. He assessed his own actions back then. When the Divine Tree was about to descend, Seimai faced two members of the Otsutsuki clan who came to plant the Divine Tree. Otsutsuki Kaguya and Otsutsuki Ishiki. Alone. Although the confrontation did not result in a decisive outcome, It could be said that Seimai managed to fend off the invaders with his own strength. However, Seimai felt a profound unease in his heart. From the words of those two, he learned that their actions were not random. Behind them was the existence of the entire Otsutsuki clan. That meant, even if he managed to barely block these two invaders, more powerful members of the Otsutsuki clan would come later. What's worse, if a full-scale war broke out, all the powers of this planet would be insignificant before the Otsutsuki clan. And the results of divination also told him that continuing in such a stalemate would lead to the worst outcome. In the end, he made a difficult decision. By achieving a true victory and deceiving the enemy, they would not actively call for reinforcements. The Otsutsuki clan's concept of time is similar to that of spirits, which could buy more time for humans. He himself chose to merge completely with the Ryumyaku, resisting the divine tree's extraction, to preserve some of the planet's vitality. So it is. Kaito mused, having previously thought the planet itself was sentient, which would explain many things. The planet itself does not have consciousness, everything on it operates orderly according to natural laws and has no capacity to resist the extraction by the divine tree. Seimai patiently explained. He then asked with interest. Lord Kaito, have you discovered any clues? The natural energy contains a curse on chakra. Kaito explained. As far as I know, only a few shinobi can absorb natural energy directly, and even those who succeed can only use it mixed with chakra. Most people who attempt it end up petrified. He chuckled awkwardly. I had always thought it was a counterattack by the world's consciousness. Following this, the conversation returned to the main topic. In the end, Seimai's plans were successful. He used a connection between the Ryumyaku and a chakra fruit to lure Kaguya. As expected, Kaguya could not resist eating the fruit. After suppressing all resistance, she even went so far as to kill Ishiki in order to monopolize the fruit, and even cut off contact with the Otsutsuki clan out of fear of losing the chakra. However, I did not expect that Princess Kaguya would become increasingly greedy, eventually being defeated and sealed by her own children. Seimai concluded with a light remark. Kaito lowered his eyelids, thinking, this old man is quite cunning, surely stirring up things behind the scenes. Although this has delayed the crisis for 1,000 years, even for those not sensitive to time, the other members of the Otsutsuki clan must have realized by now. In the near future, this world will face a new crisis. Seimai then looked at Kaito with satisfaction. But after seeing Lord Kaito, I am reassured. Thank you for the compliment, Lord Seimai. However, I still have a long way to go. Although I also wish to learn to protect this world like you, I often worry about my own inadequacy. I hope Lord Seimai will not hesitate to teach me. Kaito said humbly, his voice tinged with a slight trepidation. Little fox. Seimai unfolded his fan over his mouth, his eyes gleaming with interest as he praised. Lord Kaito need not be so modest, you are already a very capable onmyoji. Old fox. Kaito bowed again, respectfully adding. Please continue to instruct me, Lord Seimai. Certainly. Seimai fluttered his fan lightly, finally conceding. You may ask me anything you wish, Lord Kaito. And so, Kaito unabashedly began to seek advice on the use of Ryumyaku energy. Seimai earnestly taught him all he knew. However, when the teaching paused, Seimai, acting as a mentor, assigned a difficult task. The two children of Kaguya, Hagoromo and Hamura, did not truly die. Seimai said, his tone significant. Their souls, or rather their chakra, still exist somewhere. Kaito appeared surprised. As it turned out, for a non-myoji, the death of the body does not constitute true extinction. Seimai seemed somewhat troubled as he continued. I cannot be certain of their stance should other members of the Otsutsuki clan arrive. Kaito merely showed a slightly surprised expression, waiting for more information. Although I trust they would stand with us. Seimai paused. But Kaito internally picked up the cue. Sure enough, Seimai continued. But just in case, we must be prepared to counteract them. Kaito nodded in understanding, asking. Specifically, what should I do? Seimai casually said. I hope you can revive the King of Hell. Excuse me? What now? Kaito widened his eyes, uncertainly asking. Do you mean the King of Hell? The ruler of the underworld in legends? Seimai nodded affirmatively. Kaito hesitantly spoke. But the underworld has been shattered, is such a thing possible? Chapter 70, faced with Kaito's doubts, Seimai nodded reassuringly. Don't worry, Kaito-kun. He said comfortingly. I will tell you how to do it. Reviving King Inma is just a term. Moreover, if you can accomplish this, you will gain immense benefits. Kaito's interest was piqued. I would like to hear more. Seimai explained in detail, and Kaito nodded repeatedly, becoming genuinely excited. Rest assured, Lord Seimai, I will do my utmost. Kaito said, full of enthusiasm. CI chuckled softly, pleased. Then I entrust this to you, Kaido-kun. If you have any questions in the future, try calling my name while connecting with the Ramyaku. Farewell. Yes, Lord CI. Farewell. Kaido replied, bowing deeply. CI nodded once more, smiling warmly as he shook his cherry wood fan, transforming back into golden water that flowed back into the river. Time to go back, Kaido thought. He felt his consciousness rapidly ascending and soon returned to his body. Slowly opening his eyes, he saw Gyur excitedly crouched in front of him. You did it, Kaido. Gyur's round eyes sparkled with excitement, seemingly more thrilled than Kaido himself. Just moments ago, Gyur had felt that Kaido had become different from before. Kaido also immediately sensed the change within himself. Like a pearl polished of its dust, his body felt more translucent, and his aura became more profound and enduring. To a being like Gyur, Kaido felt more in tune with nature, making Gyur want to be closer to him. Yes, I did it. Kaido nodded with a smile. He patted Gyur's shoulder, thanking him. Thank you for your help during this time. Don't mention it. Gyur said, trying to suppress his rising smile and feigning modesty. That's what friends are for. Kaido didn't expose his pretense. Standing up, he tidied his wrinkled clothes and asked. I'm going to be busy from now on. Do you want to come with me? What are you going to do? Gyur tilted his head, his neck turning a full 180 degrees. Exorcise demons. Kaido replied calmly. What demons? Gyur's head turned another 90 degrees, though his neck stayed put. Kaido brushed his sleeves nonchalantly. The Bliss Box, Zero Tail, Morio, the Shinigami, and the Evil God. Aren't those a bit too challenging? Gyur's eyes widened even more. He didn't know about the Bliss Box and Zero Tail, but he had heard of Morio, the Shinigami, and the Evil God, Jashin. They were immortal demons. How could they be exorcised? Isn't his kid getting a bit too cocky? Kaido nodded. That's why I asked if you wanted to join me. I'll go. Gyur raised his hand. But I might not be much help. Well, considering I'm much older, I should keep an eye on him. At the very least, I can help him escape in critical moments. Kaido was delighted. No problem. Just having you around makes me feel much safer. Humphrey. Even if you say that, I won't be happy about it. Gyur retorted. Kaido smiled without responding. Bringing Gyur along would save him from running all over the shinobi world to exorcise demons. While he could do it himself, it was better to conserve energy. After all, as a non-myoji, he considered himself more of a refined scholar than a physical ninja or samurai. Truthfully, Kaido didn't want to exorcise demons because it sounded troublesome. However, the benefits promised by CI made the effort worthwhile. In the end, he had to admit, it was a sweet deal. Moreover, he hadn't realized that the demons and the Bliss Box were connected. The Bliss Box was a legendary ninja tool left by the Sage of Six Paths, but CI told a different story. When Kaguya consumed the chakra fruit, she wielded immense power to suppress the world. She killed countless humans and demons but couldn't completely destroy King Inma. As the ruler of the underworld, King Inma was one with the realm of Yami, achieving an immortal state. In anger, Kaguya used the divine tree to shatter Yami, absorbing its fragments into her space, weakening King Inma. She then divided King Inma's power into 4 parts, sealing them in a box using the emotions of all beings as a sacrifice. Thus, King Inma was left with a mindless shell. This is the origin of the Hell Path's ability to summon the King of Hell in the 6 Paths of Pain. After Kaguya's defeat, her eldest son, the Sage of Six Paths, obtained the box sealing King Inma's power. When he tried to unseal it, he found the power had become utterly corrupted and evil. So, he hid the box. Over time, after the sage's death, someone found the box. Ignoring the sage's warnings, they celebrated, thinking they had found the world's greatest treasure. They believed the box could grant wishes, naming it the Bliss Box. Eventually, the worst happened. People opened the box through sacrifices, releasing 4 terrible demons. Zero Tail emerged from the side representing joy, feeding on the darkness in human hearts and tempting them with immortality. Morio appeared from the anger side, feeding on malice and driving large-scale wars. The Shinigami came from sorrow, feeding on human souls and adhering to fair trades. The Evil God emerged from happiness, feeding on pain and spreading his faith among people. Fortunately, only Morio was conspicuous. Aiming to conquer the world through war, he was eventually sealed by the priestess ruling the land of demons. The other 3 demons remained hidden, continuing their activities in the shadows. Kaido's task was to retrieve the Bliss Box, find these 4 demons, and reseal them. Then, he would purify the box's power. Finally, he would obtain King Inma's shell and combine it with the power. See, I predicted that due to Yami's destruction and the long-term division and corruption of his power, King Inma would lose his autonomous consciousness after purification. This meant that, like Susanoo and Yamato no Orochi, Kaido could control King Inma's power. This was the true reason Kaido was willing to tirelessly exorcise demons worldwide. See, that old fox, must have known my character well to use such a tempting method. Kaido thought to himself. Chapter 71. In the time that followed, Kaido laid many seals at the Rumyaku node, completely concealing the underground space. After leaving the ruins of Urin, he crouched down, placing one hand on the ground and closing his eyes. Let's go, I've found the nearest city in the land of wind through the Rumyaku. Let's go have a big meal and rest well. Kaido opened his eyes, stood up, and called out to Gyur. Gyur. Gyur transformed back to his original form, growing larger while emitting loud cries. Kaido chuckled, lightly tapped with his foot to take off, and smoothly landed on Gyur's back. Fly that way. He pointed in the direction. Gyur flapped his wings powerfully, kicking up swirling dust, and soon soared high into the sky, flying in the direction Kaido pointed. 3 hours later, with Gyur flying at full speed, they reached the vicinity of their destination city. When Gyur descended to the ground in an unpopulated area and transformed back into his humanoid form, Kaido led him toward the oasis where the city was located. This place was called a city, but it was actually quite small, roughly the size of a small town in the Land of Fire. Kaido and Gyur passed by a caravan leading camels and entered the city's only inn. However, looking at the simplicity of everything, their expectations dwindled to nothing. Fine food and luxury rooms were non-existent. After a simple meal and a quick bath, having water for a bath being the only good point, they went to bed, exhausted. Kaido felt weary and quickly fell into a deep sleep. He found himself in a dimly lit ancient house, not knowing why he was there, nor did he think about why, simply wandering through endless rooms. He slid open a paper door, stepped over to Tommy mats, and opened another door, finding the same hallway and closed doors. Ding-ling-ling. Ding-ling-ling. A crisp bell sound reached him, and Kaido sleepily followed the sound. Turning several corners, he successfully left the room, reaching the covered walkway outside. Ding-ling-ling. He looked in the direction of the sound, seeing flickering lights behind a large tree in the courtyard. Head bowed, he stepped down from the walkway, naturally slipping on a pair of wooden sandals on the stone path, and slowly walked towards the tree. Ding-ling-ling. The bell sound grew clearer. Kaido reached the tree and looked towards the pond. Hidden by bushes, he saw the back of a young woman sitting on a stone by the pond, her long hair cascading down her back. She slowly raised her hand, her wide sleeves slipped down, revealing her fair arm adorned with red nail polish, gently shaking a handbell. Ding-ling-ling. Ding-ling-ling. Colorful butterflies danced around her in time with the bell, their wings scattering sparkles, the only brightness in the dim courtyard. Kaido stepped forward, drawn towards the young woman. His wooden sandals clicked on the stone path, but the woman in front did not turn around. Finally, he rounded the courtyard's rockery and bushes, stopping 3 steps behind her, standing silently. Ding-ling-ling. The woman continued without turning, just shaking the bell, playing with the glittering butterflies. Miss, may I ask where this is? Kaido spoke softly. As his voice fell, the woman stopped ringing the bell, and the entire courtyard suddenly fell silent. No wind, no water sounds, no bird calls, no insect sounds. The woman slowly turned her head a bit, and as Kaido was about to see her features, she suddenly twisted around. Although she still sat with her back to him, he was now facing her directly. Their eyes met, and they looked at each other silently for a long time. Kaido stared at the face before him, a blur of flesh and blood, and sighed helplessly. Your neck flexibility is just like Gyur's, Miss Yuri. Ah. Yuri didn't move her head, her body turned around. When did you realize? I wasn't done playing. Kaido spread his hands, slightly annoyed. Hey, Miss Yuri, I've played along for so long, isn't that enough? Besides, what did I do to deserve you coming to teach me a lesson in my dream? Ahem. Yuri turned her face away, silent. Ahem, what? If you don't speak, how would I know? Kaido crouched down in front of her, smiling. Yuri lifted her sleeve to cover her face, her voice light and airy. You wrote a letter to Sasuke but not to me. She lowered her sleeve, her previously muddled face now clear and stern, her eyes watery as she stared at Kaido. Kaido, feeling awkward under her gaze, stuttered. What are you looking at? With a burst of laughter, Yuri couldn't help but cover her mouth, her eyes curving into joyful crescents. What's so funny? Kaido asked, puzzled by her reaction. You're just so cute, Kaido. Yuri stood up, bent down, and pinched Kaido's cheek with her small hand. Kaido was even more confused now. Yuri turned away, her face gleaming with triumph. Humphrey, Kaido can't resist my charm at all. Just getting a bit close makes him stutter, she thought, reveling in her observation based on her experiences in human dreams. This must be what liking someone feels like. She then turned back to face Kaido and spoke in a casual tone. Kaido, would you like to see me dance? Eh? Kaido blinked rapidly and nodded vigorously, his voice dry as he said. Yes, sure. He then clapped his hands enthusiastically. What's gotten into her today? Kaido decided to play along smoothly to get through this dream without a hitch. He settled himself on a nearby rock, looking forward to the performance with eager anticipation. Yuri turned her back to him again, lifted the handbell, and started to ring it. Ding-ling-ling. Ding-ling-ling. The crisp sound of the bell resonated once more, accompanied by fluttering butterflies. Yuri stepped into a graceful dance. Her wide sleeves unfurled, her lavish skirt twirled, and though her face was expressionless, the fleeting glances she cast through her fluttering hair heated Kaido's heart. As Yuri danced, more and more butterflies gathered, and the sprinkles of stardust they shed illuminated the dark water, resembling a pond of the Milky Way. Ding-ling-ling. Ding-ling-ling. A faint scent drifted in the air, with pink petals falling all around. Kaido looked up to see a tree full of flourishing night cherry blossoms. I may never forget this dream, Kaido thought silently. Ding-ling-ling. Ding-ling-ling. His heart danced with the cherry blossoms. After what felt like an eternity, the dance of wishes came to an end. Yuri's movements froze, her skirt and hair slowly falling from the air. Kaido applauded with a smile. Yuri let the bell hang down, still speaking in a mild tone. Did you like it? Kaido stood up and walked over to her, then suddenly took her hand. He looked up at the falling cherry blossoms and confidently said. It was beautiful. Chapter 72. After completely trapping Denzo Shimura and his companions, Kaido Uchiha formed hand seals again, and the Sharingan in his red eyes spun. His immense and pure mental power, activated by the Sharingan, easily eradicated the weak souls of the bugs. Large swaths of black insects fell from the air, covering the ground beneath his feet. How can this be? Trun struggled to speak. The Sharingan killed my bugs directly. It seems you are Kaido who took Sasuke Uchiha away. Denzo tried to probe. Now that you have obtained the Sharingan, leave quickly. Do you want to face the entire village's siege? Kaido sneered, disdainfully looking at the bloodied, one-eyed, and utterly disheveled Denzo Shimura, casually responding. No need to worry about me, Denzo-sama. My subordinates have been unresponsive for so long, it seems you brought reinforcements. Anger surged in Denzo's single eye. Is it Itachi Uchiha? Or, is it Madara Uchiha? Oh? Kaito raised an eyebrow. It seems you know quite a lot. When did you meet that man who claims to be Madara? Of course, it was when the Uchiha clan was annihilated. Denzo provocatively replied. The destruction of the Uchiha clan was personally carried out by him and Itachi Uchiha. I arrived later only to clean up the aftermath. So, you're saying the Uchiha clan's downfall had nothing to do with you? Kaido asked, his smile implying skepticism. Of course. At that time, I was following the third Hokage's orders, waiting for negotiations with the Uchiha. Denzo claimed boldly. Unexpectedly, Itachi Uchiha followed Madara's instructions and acted directly, killing all his clan members. Is that so? Kaido took a few steps forward, taking a small bottle containing a Sharingan from the tray in his clone's hand to examine it closely. Then why did they leave these Sharingan eyes for you? That's because I arrived with my men in time, they hadn't had the chance to clear the battlefield. Utter nonsense. Izuna's condemning voice sounded, and he, along with Chiri, materialized beside Kaido. He took the bottle containing the Mangekyo Sharingan from the tray, asking darkly. Kid, why waste words with him? Whose eye is this? I don't know. Kaido shook his head, looking again at Denzo. Can you enlighten us, Denzo? However, Denzo was somewhat surprised by the two new Uchiha figures, one male and one female, each holding a blood-stained long sword, obviously having fought recently, implying the members of the Foundation at the base might already be dead. What he couldn't accept was that he and his two subordinates hadn't sensed any disturbance. Moreover, he had no recollection of the male Uchiha, but the woman seemed somewhat familiar. Are you Chiri Uchiha? He looked at the woman holding the blood-stained long sword with a gentle smile in shock. Where did you obtain the reanimation jutsu? He questioned Kaido again. Did you make a deal with Orochimaru, the traitor, Uchiha's remnants? Whether I did or didn't isn't your concern. I have no intention of telling you. Kaito was running out of patience with the old man's meddling. You need to understand, you are now the prisoner, Denzo. Sorry, I'm not inclined to leave the leaf just yet. Kaito looked back at his predecessors. As long as we control these people, we might gain more in the future. Whether they live or die doesn't matter to me. Finish it with Denzo, Chiri-sama. His expression was ruthless. Just make sure the body remains intact. Chiri frowned slightly, voicing her concern. Kaido, are you intending to dabble in those forbidden jutsu? Don't worry. Kaido reassured her with a smile. I won't indulge in such things, after all, I've discovered better techniques. Chiri nodded. I believe you. Her gaze returned to Denzo Shimura, as if wanting to say something, but ultimately she remained silent, simply walking forward silently with her sword. What are you doing? Scoundrels! Let go of Denzo-sama. You traitors of the leaf. Truninfu struggled and shouted. Do you seek to take my life? Denzo remained relatively calm. The Uchiha have always been a thorn in the leaf's side. No, this is personal. Chiri raised her sword towards his heart. I'm merely seeking revenge for myself. Denzo's pupil dilated slightly. I remember you died in the Uchiha clan's internal strife. What does that have to do with me? It does. Chiri's sword precisely pierced his heart. Because of the Mangekyo's special ability, I didn't go to the Pure Land after death but became a ghost wandering in the clan, thus knowing everything. Denzo. As blood soaked the white paper enveloping him, Denzo tried to speak, blood continuously spilling from his mouth. Everything I did was for the leaf. Maybe so, but what does that have to do with us? Kaito stepped forward, looking puzzled. With a cough, more blood spurted from Denzo's mouth, and he slumped, motionless. Denzo-sama. Denzo-sama. You bastards. Traitors. Truninfu watched helplessly as Denzo was killed, only able to shout in vain. Eh? Traitors? Kaito pointed at himself in surprise, then quickly waved his hands. No, I was never a ninja of the leaf, so I can't be called a traitor. And Chiri-sama and Izuna were summoned by me, so they don't count either. Humphrey, you sure talk a lot. Izuna gave him a contemptuous look. And I was never a leaf ninja. Alright, I'll stop. Kaito raised his hands in surrender. Let's make it quick for them. Then he prepared to form hand seals again. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 flashes of white light, and both Truninfu's necks bore a line of blood. You too. Did you have to be so eager? And why didn't you act earlier? Waiting until I was all set up just to act first, what's the meaning of this? Kaido lowered his hands with a resigned look. Having fun? Fun. Izuna answered decisively. Chiri, on the other hand, returned to her gentle smile. In the northern sea, there was an isolated island surrounded by turbulent waters and jagged rocks, making it difficult for ordinary people to approach. On this precipitous island stood a towering city piercing the clouds. It was a cloudy day with dark clouds hanging low. Around the solitary island, massive currents created whirlpools, driving wave after wave to crash against the jagged rocks jutting out of the sea. In the sky, a gigantic owl swiftly maneuvered through the dark clouds, creating streams of air as it moved. Gyur. Kaido, is this Hazuki Castle? Gyur asked, looking down at the majestic city below through the clouds. Yes, this is Hazuki Castle, the ninja prison managed by the Grass Village under commission from all major ninja villages. Kaido's voice came from its back. The box of bliss is hidden here. Are you planning to make a big scene here, Kaido? Gyur asked, somewhat excitedly. To avoid wasting time dealing with unnecessary trouble, it's better to sneak in before I find the box of bliss. Kaito observed the layout of Hazuki Castle carefully. That's boring, Gyur. Then I'll go down first, and you'll be in charge of support from the air, Gyur. After instructing Gyur, Kaito jumped off its back, gliding gracefully toward the rocky edges of the island. Upon landing, he slapped a talisman on himself and walked unhurriedly toward the city. Passing through lanterns that illuminated the island, Kaido reached the massive walls of the city. He looked up, lightly tapped his toes on the ground, and leapt over the wall with ease. Once inside, he accelerated his pace, moving like a shadow to avoid patrolling guards, and made his way to a corner of a building. Let's see where the box of bliss is hidden. He crouched down, placed his right hand on the ground, and closed his eyes. His senses spread through the ever-present streams of the Rumyaku, enveloping the entire island and extending underground. His sensory tendrils passed through layers of underground spaces, finally sensing an anomaly in a room that resembled a laboratory deep below. Found it. A smile appeared on Kaido's face. That twisted, evil presence must be the box of bliss. That location, he looked up, was directly beneath the central square of the city. Around noon, the prisoners of Hazuki Castle were gathered in the cafeteria for lunch. Hey, is that guy new? A prisoner by the window turned his head toward the figure that suddenly appeared in the middle of the square. Who was that? Looks like someone I've never seen before. Another man across him commented. Could it be The first prisoner lowered his voice excitedly. An intruder? Hey there. Turn around. Two patrolling guards also noticed the young man in the square and hurried over. The young man with black hair turned around, his eyes flashing a shade of crimson, and the two guards collapsed limply. Beep. A sharp alarm sounded, and guards from the distance began to converge. An intruder. Quick, go inform Lord Mu. A plump official hurried over, loudly demanding. Who are you? Kaido ignored the crowd, simply looking down and whispering. Susanoo. A giant blue skeletal torso emerged from the ground, encasing him within. What is that? The plump official's eyes widened in terror. Clang. Many guards dropped their weapons, and those who had gathered began to retreat hastily. It's rare to see an intruder. A man with long hair and a uniform, carrying his hands behind his back, approached calmly. Lord Mu. Lord Mu has arrived. Upon his arrival, the guards seemed to find their backbone, clustering behind him. Mu looked at the intruding youth, locking eyes with those crimson pupils. A ripple of emotion finally crossed his stoic face as he asked solemnly. Those eyes. Are they the Sharingan? What? The plump official stuttered. Could he be that legendary S-rank criminal, Itachi Uchiha? Hey. Kaido shifted his gaze to the official. Don't lump me in with that guy, it annoys me. The official, trembling under his gaze, quickly retreated behind Mu. No matter who you are, what are you doing invading Hazuki Castle? Mu stepped forward, raising his voice. My purpose? Kaito manipulated Susanoo to raise its right hand. Is to retrieve something. That's not good. His target is the box of bliss. Mu's expression changed drastically as he charged forward. Boom. Susanoo's fist slammed into the square's ground, sending chunks of rock flying and blocking Mu's advance. Kaido looked at the large crater his attack had created and controlled Susanoo to jump down into it. Stop him. Mu shouted as he followed, leaping down after Kaido. Boom. 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 Kaito maneuvered Susanoo through the underground, quickly reaching the deep subterranean room he had sensed earlier. His gaze swept across the various machinery filling the room until it settled on a massive demonic face embedded in the rock wall. It looks like this is the box of bliss. Susanoo extended its right hand and swung its fist toward the wall. Fire style, heavenly prison. Mu's voice rang out as he pressed his right hand against Susanoo's back. The game is over. Those caught by the heavenly prison can no longer draw out chakra. Is that so? Unfortunately, that technique won't work on me. Kaito said calmly. What? Mu was taken aback as his heavenly prison technique indeed had no effect. You better not interfere with me. Kaito said, turning his stern gaze back at Mu. Mu immediately stepped back, alert and cautious. Mu. We must not let him take the box of bliss. We cannot let it happen. It belongs to our hidden grass village. From behind, aged voices emerged, and four figures wearing animal masks and black robes suddenly appeared. Ah, this is bothersome. Kaido frowned. Now that you've all shown yourselves, don't blame me if you end up dead. Boom. The aura around Susanoo intensified, shattering the ceiling layers above until its head emerged above the ground, transforming from a skeletal torso into a 100-meter-tall giant with a long nose. Large chunks of debris fell as Mu and the masked figures scrambled to dodge. Kaido's body began to rise, and armor plates appeared one by one on Susanoo until it was fully encased in samurai armor, complete with a pair of wings on its neck. In the chaos of falling masonry, Mu and the others struggled to find cover. It's an intruder of unusual strength. One of the masked figures shouted as they regrouped. We need a plan, fast. Another voice echoed in urgency. Meanwhile, Kaido, now perched in the headspace of the armored giant, looked down at the disarray he had caused. His plan was clear, and his control over the imposing Susanoo was absolute. Now, let's end this quickly. Kaido murmured, ready to descend once more into the depths of the fortress to retrieve the box of bliss, the source of untold power he was determined to claim. Chapter 73, Kaido manipulated the fully formed Susanoo to bend down and effortlessly extract the box of bliss from the rock wall. Susanoo cradled the box of bliss in its hands, slightly bent its knees, and then leapt out of the underground space. Its wings spread wide, lifting Kaido into the sky. Next, Susanoo raised the box of bliss, examining it closely. Such dense malice. Kaido thought to himself. It looks like it needs to be emptied once. With his objective achieved, Kaido prepared to leave. He controlled Susanoo to flap its wings and ascend higher. Wait. Mu's voice echoed once more. Kaido looked down. By this time, the wide courtyard of Hazuki Castle had completely collapsed, turning into a massive crater. Mu stood at the edge of the pit, looking desperate. Susanoo hovered in the air, and Kaido's voice sounded. Do you still want to take back the box of bliss? No, you can take the box of bliss. Mu shouted. I just have one request. What are you saying, Mua? How dare you? Are you going to betray the hidden grass village? 4 masked figures in black robes emerged from the pit, angrily pointing at Mua. Grass shadow style, explosive palm. Mua moved with lightning speed, taking down the 4 black-robed figures with a few swift blows. You! How dare you! The village no longer exists in my heart since my son sacrificed himself. Mua looked at them coldly. The surrounding guards and prisoners, stunned by the scene, scattered in all directions. Mua turned to Kaido in the air and shouted. Please, give me a chance to open the box of bliss. Afterward, you can take it. Oh? Do you have a wish you must fulfill? Kaido asked, intrigued. Mua closed his eyes briefly and spoke in a low voice. To open the box of bliss, the hidden grass village conducted countless experiments, sacrificing many lives. In the end, even my son, Myuku, was sacrificed. Since then, my only wish has been to see Myuku again. You mean your son was thrown into the box of bliss? Kaido asked, surprised. Tears welled up in Mua's eyes as he nodded. Impossible. The malice within this box can distort anyone's will. Kaido said, somewhat helplessly. Even if you open the box, do you think the person who emerges will still be your son? Bang. Mua fell to his knees, hands on the ground. Kaido's overwhelming power made it clear that fighting was futile. If the box of bliss was taken away, he would never have another chance. So, even if he had to kneel and beg, he would not hesitate? Because this was the only possible way to fulfill his wish. Please let me see my son again, I beg you. A shadow descended from the sky with a thud, placing the box of bliss before Mua. Kaido retracted Susanoo, standing atop the box of bliss, looking down at the kneeling Mua. He didn't particularly care about Mua's plea. There was no point in regretting sacrificing his son now. And the way the box of bliss fulfilled wishes would surely be twisted. Even if it was opened, the result wouldn't be what Mua wanted. But Kaido had already said his piece. If Mua insisted on risking his life, Kaido wouldn't stop him. After all, he needed to open the box once to clear the malice inside. Mua looked up at Kaido, understanding that he had agreed to his request, and quickly expressed his gratitude. Thank you for fulfilling my request. I've already warned you. If you insist, do as you wish. Kaido jumped off the box, casually tossing out several talisman papers before forming a seal with his hands. Gather. The 5 talisman papers expanded rapidly in the air, forming a pentagram. The next moment, a wind arose, and natural energy began to gather continuously. The demonic face on the box of bliss opened its mouth, greedily absorbing the gathered energy. Buzz. A vibration sounded, and the eyes on the demonic face of the box of bliss lit up, beginning to spin. When the eyes of the 4 different expressions on the demonic face lit up, it returned to its original state. Go ahead. Kaido said to Mua. Mua nodded, stood up, and made his request loudly. In the name of Myuku, please open the box of bliss and fulfill the wish of the one who opens it. Let my son, Myuku, appear before me again. A cracking sound was heard, and the demonic face on the box split into several pieces, revealing a grotesque beast head. Roar. The beast head slowly opened its mouth, revealing pure darkness inside. Kaido sensed the aura inside the box of bliss and couldn't help but frown. Tap, tap. Footsteps echoed as a long-haired boy in tattered clothes stumbled out. He steadied himself, his gaze falling on Mua, and he called out softly. Father. Myuku. Tears immediately streamed down Mua's face as he reached out to Myuku. Myuku, I'm sorry. It was my fault. Father. Myuku suddenly accelerated, leaping into Mua's arms. With a ripping sound, Myuku's hand pierced through Mua's chest. As expected. Kaido watched coldly from the side, making no move to intervene. He had sensed it earlier. This Myuku was no longer the same Myuku, Mua's son. Over time, the box had absorbed too many lives, and the filth inside had grown immensely powerful, even birthing a monster. Now, driven by Mua's wish, the monster had merged with Myuku. I won't spare a father who sends his son to his death. Myuku, expressionless, said this and withdrew his blood-stained arm, letting Mua's body fall to the ground. Don't you have anything to say? He turned his face to Kaido. This has nothing to do with me. Kaido replied calmly. I see. Myuku's arms elongated, growing vicious claws, and his body rapidly transformed, sprouting layers of black feathers. Amidst constant roars, a black monster with wings, 4 claws, no eyes, and a long tail appeared, its huge mouth gaping open. I can't hear your fear. You must be strong. Kaito raised an eyebrow. I suppose so. The black monster spread its wings and flew into the sky. So, even if I throw everyone in this castle into the box of bliss, it has nothing to do with you? Chapter 74, Kaito chuckled softly and said. Don't say that, after all, I'm a non-Myoji. He raised his right hand, holding a talisman between his index and middle fingers. A spiritual light surged around him and his robes fluttered. And the responsibility of an onmyoji is to protect the people from demons. If you let the box of bliss devour more people, you'll become stronger, making it much harder to defeat you. I'm not a fool. The black demon formed from mucus swiftly flew over Kaito's head, its giant feathers gleaming coldly, shooting out like crossbow bolts. Let's see if you can really take on that responsibility. Facing the feathered projectiles the size of spears, Kaito threw the talisman and formed a seal with his hands. Susanoo. A how-bodied skeleton appeared to block the feathers, producing clear collision sounds. The thrown talisman streaked through the air, chasing the demon. The demon quickly turned in the air, dodging the incoming talisman. As it passed by, the talisman suddenly emitted a brilliant light, multiplying into countless sheets, enveloping the demon from all directions. Roar. The demon opened its mouth, a ball of scorching red energy forming within, which it spewed towards the talismans. Meanwhile, Kaito dispersed Susanoo, closed his eyes, and chanted. Hidden deep in the earth, the pulse of the planet, the source of life, appear now, grant your protection, urgently, as I command. When a golden mist enveloped his body, he opened his eyes suddenly, dropping to one knee and slamming his hands onto the ground. Ramyaku chains. In an instant, countless golden chains burst from the ground, surging toward the demon in the sky. The demon shrieked and flapped its wings, trying to fly higher. The golden chains shot up, relentlessly pursuing their target. Kaito threw out numerous talismans again, which flew along the chains towards the demon, streaking through the air as streams of light. The dense golden chains compressed the demon's space, and although it spat energy attacks, they were futile. Swish, swish, swish. The chains whizzed through the air, binding the demon into a tight bundle. The demon struggled violently, but countless talismans flashing with spiritual light flew over, sticking to its body layer by layer. The demon was immediately and thoroughly bound, falling from the sky with a thud, raising a cloud of dust. Fire style, Grand Fire Prison. Mua, his chest pierced by Muku, reappeared, surrounded by red flames, slapping his palm onto the demon's chest. The flames turned into ropes branding the demon, whose body began to shrink, turning back into a boy. The golden chains retracted into the ground, leaving only a few binding the boy. Father. The boy called softly. Mua covered his bleeding chest, looking at the boy with a complex expression but said nothing. He turned around, stumbling to Kaito, and knelt once again. Grabbing Kaito's robe, he tearfully pleaded. Master, if you truly are the legendary Onmyoji, I, Mua, beg you to help my son rid himself of the demon's influence and guide him to peace in the afterlife. I understand. Kaito looked down at him. However, there are conditions. Please state them. Mua coughed up blood, struggling to speak. As long as I can do it. Kaito smiled. Your sealing techniques are quite good. I want you to sign a contract, agreeing to serve as my Shikigami for 10 years after your death. Mua responded without hesitation. Cough. I agree. As long as Muku can be freed from the demon's influence. Very well. Kaito patted Mua's shoulder, and a golden mist flowed onto him. Then, Kaito straightened up and walked towards Muku. This energy will keep you alive for a while longer. Let me complete the transaction, and then you can sign the contract. Mua no longer felt pain. Watching Kaito's back, he softly said. Thank you, Master. Kaito reached Muku and placed a hand on his head. What are you doing? Muku looked up, his pitch-black eyes void of light. I made a deal with your father. Kaito smiled at him. To exorcise the demon and help you find peace. Ha ha ha. Muku laughed like he had heard the funniest joke. With malice, he said loudly. Impossible. I am the demon now. Kaito only looked down at him, spiritual power pouring into Muku's body through his hand. Ah! Muku screamed in pain as black mist began to emanate from his body. Kaito's other hand formed seals continuously as he chanted. Rin, Pyo, Tu, Sha, Ke, Jin, Retsu, Zei, Zen. Blue spiritual light burst forth, with more and more black mist flowing from Muku's body into the box of bliss. Muku's screams grew more agonizing. He wanted to roll on the ground but was tightly bound by the chains. Muku. Mu approached, crouched, and tightly grasped Muku's hand. Come back, my son. Muku's screams gradually subsided, and the black mist dwindled until it disappeared. It's done. He has a little time left. Kaito stood up and stepped aside. The remaining golden chains loosened and retracted into the ground. Father. Light returned to the boy's eyes as he smiled softly at Mu. I'm back. Muku. Mu embraced the boy lying on the ground. Muku, my son, I'm sorry. Father. I wish. We could live peacefully with Ryuzutsu forever. Muku's voice grew weaker, and his raised hand fell. Muku. Mua held Muku's body tightly, tears streaming down. After a long time, he finally calmed down, sensing his own time was near. Golden mist wafted from his body as he turned to Kaido. Master. Kaido approached, opening his hand to reveal a small paper doll. Write your name on this paper doll with your blood. Mua smeared his blood on his chest and signed the paper doll. The paper doll glowed red, then dimmed. Good. The contract is now established. Kaito nodded with satisfaction. Master. Mua lay beside Muku. Please. Bury us. In that field. Of lantern flowers. Sure, I promise. Kaito nodded. Mua struggled to turn his head to look at Muku, then breathed his last. Kaido directed his paper doll Shikigami to bury Mua and Muku's bodies in the most flourishing field of lantern flowers on the island. Then, he returned to the box of bliss. Golden chains burst from the ground again, binding the box of bliss and dragging it down, while the ground moved like water, swallowing the box. Afterward, Kaido ignored the chaos among the prisoners outside Hazuki Castle, took out a wooden whistle, summoned Gyur, and left. Chapter 75. The news of the riot at the Great Prison of Hazuki Castle quickly spread to all the major ninja villages. Without Muei's celestial prison technique to suppress them, the prisoners regained their chakra. Despite Hidden Grass Village dispatching a large number of ninjas to manage the prison, they could only rely on the violent whirlpools nearby to barely contain most of the prisoners on the island. Several powerful prisoners had already disappeared without a trace. Facing this situation, Hidden Grass Village had no choice but to send out a request for assistance to the major ninja villages. As a result, intelligence about Kaido was formally brought to the attention of all major ninja villages for the first time. Although the news of Kaido causing trouble in Hidden Lee Village had already spread through spies, it didn't provoke much reaction because neither Kaito nor his allies had shown overwhelming strength. This time, however, was entirely different. Given the circumstances, Hidden Grass Village also made information about Box of Ultimate Bliss public. Along with the guards' accounts from Hazuki Castle, this drew significant attention from across the ninja world. A lone individual had infiltrated Hazuki Castle, opened Box of Ultimate Bliss by himself, easily defeated the demons that emerged, and left unscathed. The power Kaido demonstrated in this incident was enough to draw serious attention from the major ninja villages. Upon receiving the news, the leaders of the 5 great ninja villages summoned their trusted aides for secret discussions and subsequently dispatched reinforcements to Hazuki Castle. Hidden Leaf Village sent Kakashi Hatake and Yamato, Hidden Clouds Village sent Samui, Hidden Stones Village sent Kurotsuchi and Akatsuchi, Hidden Sand Village sent Maki and Kankuro, Hidden Mist Village sent Ao and Chojuro. In no time, elite ninjas from the 5 great ninja villages gathered at Hazuki Castle. With the arrival of these elite ninjas, the prisoner riot was swiftly and thoroughly suppressed. Thereafter, the representatives from the major ninja villages began exchanging opinions. Samui from Hidden Clouds Village was the first to voice her displeasure. I must say, the trouble caused by Hidden Leaf Village is excessive. Kurotsuchi from Hidden Stones Village added. I only want to know, where did this Uchiha who attacked Hazuki Castle come from? Ao from Hidden Mist Village quickly supported this. Indeed, Hidden Leaf Village should provide an explanation for this. Maki from Hidden Sand Village, due to the current alliance between his village and Hidden Leaf Village, did not join the others in their criticism, but he did not defend Hidden Leaf Village either and remained silent. Kakashi exchanged a helpless glance with Yamato. Feeling the aggressive stares from the others, he couldn't help but sigh inwardly. I knew this would be a troublesome task. In the end, he had no choice but to explain. The man who attacked Hazuki Castle is named Kaido Uchiha. However, I must state on behalf of Hidden Leaf Village that Kaido Uchiha left Hidden Leaf Village 10 years ago and has never been an active ninja of Hidden Leaf Village since. That's an excuse. Samui's face was cold. Kurotsuchi disagreed. The Uchiha clan is part of Hidden Leaf Village. Hidden Leaf Village must take responsibility. Ao said bluntly. Maki still did not express his opinion. Kakashi, feeling a headache, tried to steer the conversation. The most important thing now is whether we need to track Kaido Uchiha's whereabouts. Humphrey. Samui gave Kakashi a cold look but didn't argue further. Instead, she continued along his line of thinking, we must understand his movements. The Bliss Box is too dangerous to fall into such a person's hands. Agreed, if an Uchiha possesses Box of Ultimate Bliss, it could threaten the entire ninja world. Based on the information, that person is powerful. Seizing Box of Ultimate Bliss this time, is he planning something? For the stability of the ninja world, we must gather more information. This time, even Maki joined the discussion. Kakashi understood clearly that the attitudes of these people indicated that the major ninja villages were now interested in Box of Ultimate Bliss. However, since he also wanted to find Kaido to clarify some things, he agreed to the tracking mission. For now, Kaido wasn't concerned about the consequences of his actions. At this moment, Gyur had flown across the vast sea and landed on an uninhabited deserted island. Kaido walked around the island and finally stopped in a canyon between two high mountains, where he began preparing for the initial purification of Box of Ultimate Bliss. As he chanted spells to communicate with Ramyaku, the ground before him began to move, eventually spitting out a large box tightly bound by golden chains. The filth inside the box is overwhelming. To avoid your demon power being contaminated, you should stay far away, Gyur. Kaido gestured to Gyur. Having witnessed the malice emanating from the box from afar at Hazuki Castle, Gyur knew its danger. Obediently, he transformed back into his original form and flew to the other side of the island. After Gyur left, Kaido began arranging the magic formation. He walked around Box of Ultimate Bliss several times, constantly casting talismans from his hands and placing them on the ground as he had planned. Then, he knelt on one knee and placed both hands on the ground. Ramyaku chains binding Box of Ultimate Bliss sprang up and quickly retracted into the ground. Freed from its restraints, Box of Ultimate Bliss began to tremble violently. The ghost faces on its four sides fell off, revealing four beast head carvings that opened their mouths wide. Massive amounts of black mist surged out from the huge beast mouths. Faces with ferocious expressions appeared on the surface of the mist, roaring piercingly at Kaido. Kaido swiftly formed hand seals, chanting the 9-word mantra. Rin, Pyo, Tu, Sha, Ke, Jin, Retsu, Zei, Zen. The talismans arranged on the ground began to glow slightly, and blue light traced out lines connecting the talismans. The light grew brighter and a complex magic formation quickly took shape, trapping all the black mist within it. The black mist roiled more violently, the fierce faces continually crashing against the edges of the formation. Kaido took a blood-red Higanbana, red spider lily, from his sleeve and tossed it into the air. Ms. Kori, please lend me your strength. The Higanbana emitted a burst of red light, and a translucent girl in a red dress appeared in the air. She didn't speak, merely glancing at the black mist emerging from Box of Ultimate Bliss, then nodded slightly at Kaido before disappearing. The Higanbana accelerated through the magic formation, swiftly descending and embedding its stem into the soil near Box of Ultimate Bliss. Manjazaka, Yami Purification Formation. With a soft shout from Kaido, the red light from the Higanbana rapidly spread, and a large number of red spider lilies bloomed rapidly around Box of Ultimate Bliss. Screams echoed, and the black mist was continuously absorbed by the red spider lilies, rolling and retreating back into Box of Ultimate Bliss. Chapter 76, Ramyaku Chains. Kaido summoned once more. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The sound of air being sliced was heard as several golden chains broke through the ground before him, rushed into the magic array, and penetrated the Box of Ultimate Bliss. Ah! Sharp cries echoed as the chains firmly bound the massive cloud of black mist, pulling it out from the box. The vast blooming flowers of the red spider lilies swayed gently, their red glow pulsating like a breath. Simultaneously, the black mist began to dissipate slowly. With this, Kaido relaxed, stood up, and walked to the side. Now it was just a matter of time. This array leveraged the red spider lily's ability, which grew in the underworld, to absorb and purify filth. Continuing like this, within a week, the resentful energy within the Box of Ultimate Bliss would be entirely absorbed. This was mainly because the red spider lily he had was merely a branch given by Miss Kori. If her true form were here, it would take at most a day to absorb this filth. For the next few days, Kaido led a leisurely life on the island. Each day, he and Gyur hunted on the island or gathered edible plants. Sometimes, he quietly made talisman papers, or he spent time organizing various jutsu he had learned. Meanwhile, the elite ninjas from the major shinobi villages were aimlessly searching the entire sea area for potential clues. They hadn't dismissed the possibility that Kaido had long left this area, but they were only responsible for the most probable direction. After all, each of the major ninja villages had spies scattered across the entire shinobi world. In the past, they had been interfering and countering each other's intelligence sources. But when they united to find a single person, the power they could wield was unparalleled. This was all because the information Hidden Grass Village had shared about the Box of Ultimate Bliss was too astonishing. The box could grant the wish of the person who opened it. There had been someone who nearly conquered the world using this box. Though the leaders of the major ninja villages didn't entirely believe these claims from Hidden Grass Village, after all, the fate of Mua, who opened the box that day, was right there for everyone to see. However, this didn't stop them from wanting to get their hands on the Box of Ultimate Bliss. After all, even if it couldn't grant wishes, who knew what other mysterious powers it might hold? Even if it didn't, it was still a powerful weapon. They could only feel at ease if they had such a dangerous object in their possession. And they had one ultimate mission: even if they couldn't obtain it, they couldn't allow any other village to get it. Even Obito Uchiha, in his underground base in the Land of Frost, was tempted upon receiving the news. Ever since his crushing defeat at Kaido's hands, Obito had been brooding for days. At that time, Nagato's body was on the verge of collapse, almost dying. Although Obito didn't care about Nagato's life, for now, the Akatsuki organization hadn't started collecting tailed beasts. He still needed Nagato and Konan to stand in the forefront. He had already sent White Zetsu to investigate, finding that Kaido hadn't divulged Akatsuki's detailed intelligence to the major shinobi villages. The only people who had run into trouble were those from Hidden Leaf Village, and that was purely by chance. Of course, Obito understood the nature of the major ninja villages. Even if Kaido had provided information, he wouldn't have gained their trust. However, it would still prompt these villages to be more vigilant, impacting the plan to capture the tailed beasts. Now, though he didn't understand why Kaido hadn't taken this step, he decided to proceed with his original plan, just with increased caution against Kaido and his companions. After contemplating all this, Obito ultimately decided to save Nagato's life to facilitate his continued role in the background. Of course, Obito didn't have many good options. The thoughts of seeking help from Tsunade or Orochimaru were quickly dismissed. In the end, he had to resort to what Madara had done to him, using White Zetsu's cells to repair Nagato's body. Naturally, he didn't do this out of pure goodwill, embedding numerous measures to control Nagato during the process. After securing Nagato's health, Obito's next concern was dealing with Kaido. That man knew too much, and his methods were so enigmatic that Obito felt constantly threatened, itching to eliminate him at once. Thus, upon learning that Kaido had taken the box of ultimate bliss, Obito lashed out at White Zetsu and Black Zetsu. These incompetent fools had failed to discover such a powerful tool hidden within the ninja world. Had he known earlier, it wouldn't have fallen into Kaido's hands. Did White Zetsu and Black Zetsu know about the box of ultimate bliss? Of course, they did. But they hadn't considered it important. For White Zetsu, every action was aimed at reviving Kaguya, his ultimate goal. He had already crafted a complete plan for this goal and wouldn't willingly create complications. However, Kaido and his monster had suddenly appeared, disrupting many plans. Now, White Zetsu, like Obito, wanted to eliminate Kaido. If they could get the box of ultimate bliss, even better. So, for now, their goals were aligned. Obito, Kaido won't be able to hide for long under the combined search efforts of the 5 great shinobi villages. White Zetsu's sinister voice rang out. Unless he's already retreated to the demon's domain. Oh, if those villages find the target, should we also intervene? Black Zetsu asked excitedly. Obito remained silent, his expression dark. He indeed wanted to attack Kaido while he was busy dealing with those villages, catching him off guard. But currently, Nagato had returned to Hidden Rain Village and was in recovery, making it inconvenient for him to act. He himself wasn't ready to face Kaido head-on again. To ambush Kaido, he needed someone to engage him and his team long enough. At least, they had to maintain a stalemate. Of course, sending the entire Akatsuki organization would surely achieve this, but it would cause too much commotion. After all, the major ninja villages were currently focused on Kaido. Nagato wouldn't agree to such a request either. So, who should it be? What do you think? Obito asked White Zetsu and Black Zetsu. Who among the Akatsuki members should we send? I know. If it's just to entangle them, Pikazu and Hidan are perfect? They're hard to kill. Black Zetsu shouted. Obito frowned, hesitating. Pikazu and Hidan's abilities are indeed strange, but Kaido also has many peculiar techniques. He might be especially adept at countering them. That makes sense. Black Zetsu knocked on his head and suggested. Then maybe Deidara and Sasori. Being able to fly is an advantage. Kaido won't be able to escape on his owl. No, let's send Pikazu and Hidan. White Zetsu interrupted. Kaido likely has a specific purpose for taking the box of ultimate bliss. Let them probe first. Hopefully, he isn't trying to resurrect that being. A cold gleam flashed in Black and White Zetsu's eyes. King Inma, who even Kaguya struggled against, must not reappear in this world. After the Sage of Six Paths died, the emergence of the box of ultimate bliss had been guided by him. Splitting the power into 4 parts was more reassuring. But was Kaito now trying to collect Inma's power? Hidan, related to the evil god, would be perfect to investigate. If true, it must be stopped. On the side, Obito observed White Zetsu's expression out of the corner of his eye. This guy knows something. Chapter 77. On this day, Kakashi was lying on the deck, looking despondently at Cookie Paradise. When he suddenly heard the barking of his Ninken from the bow of the ship. Has Pakkun discovered something? He straightened up and looked ahead, seeing a pillar of light shooting into the sky in the distance. What is that? Yamato came over, shielding his eyes with his hand as he looked towards the pillar of light. Quick, turn the rudder in that direction. Kakashi turned and ordered the Chunin who was steering the ship. Yes. Kaido watched as the pillar of light before him gradually dissipated, revealing the purified box of ultimate bliss. Now, the inside of the box was completely empty. Then, the large bloom of red spider lilies quickly withered and disappeared, leaving only the single original flower. Kaito walked over, picked up the now more vibrant and dazzling flower, and put it back into his sleeve. Next, he threw out a few talisman papers, gathering natural energy and infusing it into the box of ultimate bliss. The box began to tremble slightly, greedily absorbing the abundant energy like a whale sucking in water. A huge vortex formed in the surrounding air, and after several minutes, the energy within the box reached saturation. The mouths of the beast heads on the box slowly closed, and the demon mask that had fallen to the ground floated up, covering the beast heads with a few clangs. At this moment, Gyur flew down from the sky. Gyur, Gyur, Gyur. Kaido. A ship is coming. Oh? Has the light attracted others? Kaido jumped to the top of the box of ultimate bliss and looked into the distance. More than one ship has been drawn here. Are they specifically looking for me? Gyur perched on his shoulder, flapping his wings against Kaido's head, and shouted. Hey! You caused a ruckus at Hazuki Castle. It's only natural that people are looking for you. Show some awareness. Is that so? Ha ha ha. Kaido rubbed his head, jumping down from the box of ultimate bliss. It seems Hidden Grass Village was forced to disclose information about the box of ultimate bliss. As he continued to place talisman papers on the box, he said. Hidden Grass Village doesn't have enough manpower to search for me, so it must be the 5 great ninja villages. If there weren't enough benefits, the 5 great ninja villages wouldn't deploy ninjas to search the vast ocean for a hard-to-find target, delaying their missions. After placing the talisman papers, he reconnected with the Rumyaku, commanding the Rumyaku chains to drag the box of ultimate bliss underground. All right. He stood up, clapping his hands. Let's go see who has come. The ship carrying the Hidden Leaf Village ninjas gradually approached the deserted island, while another ship appeared on the sea on the other side. Kakashi, it seems you also noticed the situation here. Maki's voice called from afar. Due to their alliance, the ships of Hidden Leaf Village and Hidden Sand Village were close to each other. Evidently, the Hidden Sand Village ninjas were also drawn by the dissipating light pillar. So, it's you. Let's check it out together. Kakashi said, jumping from the bow and landing on the beach. The Hidden Leaf Village ninjas followed, jumping off the ship. At that moment, Kaido's voice came from the forest. Why is it you again, Kakashi? Be on guard. Yamato, standing beside Kakashi, turned and instructed the Chunin behind them. Kakashi walked a few steps forward, lifting his forehead protector to reveal his Sharingan, and responded. Well, I also want to know why it's me again. I just wanted to spend my days lazily. That's because the capable are always busy. Kaito said, surrounded by a golden mist, an owl perched on his shoulder, as he floated down from a large tree. It seems the 5th Hokage values you highly. Thanks for the compliment. Kakashi smiled, his eyes narrowing. But you've been hard to find. Eh? Should I thank you for your hard work? Kaito looked genuinely puzzled. Kakashi. Maki said, approaching with the Hidden Sand Village ninjas. Kaito petted Gyur's feathers and asked. So, Hidden Sand Village came too? You're all here for the box of ultimate bliss, right? That's right. Maki replied, taking out a kunai and preparing for an attack. Kaito, hand over the box of ultimate bliss. The Hidden Sand Village ninjas behind him also prepared for battle. What a hassle. Kaito said nonchalantly, still petting Gyur's feathers without giving the Hidden Sand Village ninjas a single glance. Poor guys. You can't even afford decent puppets. Kaito, do not take you seriously. If it's a hassle, then don't cause trouble everywhere. Kakashi said, seemingly not intending to attack as he walked up. But, I do have some questions for you. I know what you want to ask. Kaito said, turning to look at Kakashi. I can tell you, it's exactly who you think it is. Kakashi stopped, a bitter smile on his face. So, it's true. Indeed. Kaito confirmed with a nod. I was also very surprised. That person's transformation is too drastic. Is that so? Kakashi said seriously. Thank you. Kaito smiled gently. You're welcome. Kakashi. What are you talking about? Maki, seeing Kakashi and Kaito chatting amiably, couldn't help but be suspicious. Could it be? Hidden Leaf Village is really in cahoots with Kaito? As soon as he spoke, the Hidden Sand Village ninjas became even more tense, some even turning their vigilance towards the Hidden Leaf Village ninjas. Hidden Sand Village's actions immediately triggered a chain reaction, with the Hidden Leaf Village ninjas also becoming wary of the Hidden Sand Village ninjas. How interesting, Kaito said, looking at the scene with great interest. There are only 2 ninja villages now. It would be even more lively if the other 3 showed up. Kakashi gave Kaito a strange look. Is he confident because he's highly skilled? At that moment, Kaito suddenly noticed the 2 puppets in front of Kankuro, and couldn't help but raise his voice. Hey! Hidden Sand Village's painted face kid. What? Kankuro, feeling everyone's gaze shift to him, couldn't help but grit his teeth. My name is Kankuro. Whatever. Kaito waved dismissively, looking at him with disdain. I just wanted to tell you that your puppets are trash. I told you my name is Kankuro. Kankuro couldn't help but shout. Hey, you're missing the point. For a moment, everyone was speechless, looking at him. Kankuro then realized and his forehead veins bulged again. He moved his fingers, making the 2 puppets in front of him rattle. How dare you insult my proud puppets? I'll kill you. Eh? You're angry already? Kaito said leisurely. By the way, can your puppets shoot homing missiles? How could they have such things? Kankuro shouted. What about laser cannons? I said it's impossible, damn it. Kankuro almost screamed. So, your puppets are trash, Kakunro. Kaito concluded in an obviously natural tone. It's Kankuro. You're definitely doing this on purpose, you bastard. I won't let you off. Kankuro's fingers moved rapidly, and the 2 puppets in front of him rattled as they rushed forward. Chapter 78, Black Secret Technique. The puppet with the character U on its chin opened its mouth, spitting out a spray of purple needles. Kaito simply released his spiritual power, effortlessly deflecting all the needles. In his eyes, a 5-pointed star rotated, and a pentagram array appeared under the feet of the 2 puppets. Blue spiritual chains shot up from the array, instantly binding the 2 puppets tightly. Damn it. Kankuro increased the force on his chakra threads, but the puppets didn't budge. Kankuro. Maki placed a hand on Kankuro's shoulder, who was about to make another move, and commanded. Don't be impulsive. But. Kankuro protested reluctantly. Maki's face darkened as she coldly ordered. Follow orders. Yes. Maki glanced at the Hidden Leaf Village ninjas with the corner of her eye. When Kankuro was provoked into action, Maki had been prepared to provide support. However, at that moment, she had cautiously held back. She found Kakashi Hatake's behavior suspicious. She had to guard against the possibility of Hidden Leaf Village and Kaito secretly collaborating to target the Sand Ninjas. Moreover, Kaito's effortless neutralization of Kankuro's puppets indicated that his strength was not exaggerated by the Grass Village. Given the difficulty of defeating such an opponent, Maki had to consider the potential actions of third parties. If the Sand Ninjas engaged in battle, Hidden Leaf Village could make numerous moves. Not to mention, the other 3 villages' ninjas could arrive at any moment. With the Sand Ninjas refraining from action, the Hidden Leaf Village ninjas also remain passive. The situation reached a stalemate. I recently acquired a puppet. Kaito continued nonchalantly. Far superior to these. It can fire tracking missiles and powerful laser cannons that can level a mountain with one shot. Kankuro clenched his fists, unable to hold back. Don't joke around. Such things can't possibly exist. Don't jump to conclusions based on your own experience, Kankuro. Kaito pointed to Kakashi. The Hidden Leaf Village ninjas know about that puppet. How is that possible? Kankuro, ignoring the mispronunciation of his name, turned eagerly to Kakashi. Huh? Why are you looking at me? Kakashi feigned confusion. What are you talking about? I don't know anything about that. You're really dishonest, Kakashi. Kaito mocked. I left some other puppets with Hidden Leaf Village too. The Sand Ninjas eyed the Hidden Leaf Village ninjas with suspicion. This guy. Kakashi knew Kaito was trying to implicate Hidden Leaf Village. Even if you say that, I'm just an ordinary Jonin. I can't know everything that happens in the village. Kakashi replied calmly. Forget it, let's show them directly. Kaito said, waving his hand. Suddenly, a person appeared beside him. It was a grotesque man with 3 heads and 6 arms, his upper body covered in mechanical modifications. Kaito patted the arm of the Azura Path puppet, continuing. I intended to sell this on the black market, but I've been too busy. This is. Kankuro's eyes widened. A human puppet. Oh, you have good eyes, kid. Kaito replied. I considered selling it to the Sand Village. Kaito playfully up and down his eyebrows. Kankuro's eyes lit up. Although human puppets were forbidden in the Sand Village, studying an existing one was not prohibited. Moreover, this puppet clearly followed a different design philosophy from traditional Sand Village puppets, potentially offering new insights. Is he trying to trade this puppet for our retreat? It's not unthinkable. However, Kaito's next words shattered Kankuro's hopes. Unfortunately, I heard the Sand Village is too poor to afford it. What a pity. Shut up. Konkuro's face turned bright red, his makeup unable to conceal his embarrassment. The Sand Ninjas endured the sympathetic looks from the Hidden Leaf Village ninjas, feeling no gratitude. Damn it. Konkuro opened his mouth to retort, but found himself speechless, feeling only bitterness. The Sand Village really was poor. Especially after the death of the fourth Kazekage, it had become even poorer. Why didn't Gaara inherit the gold dust technique from their father? I just want to buy puppets. They're finally here, from the cloud, mist, and stone villages. Kaido abruptly changed the subject, looking towards the sea. Everyone turned to see 3 more ships appearing on the horizon. The Hidden Leaf Village and Sand Ninjas exchanged glances, then looked to their respective leaders. Kakashi and Maki understood that engaging Kaito now wouldn't be easy and could lead to a large-scale battle between the villages. So they continued to hold back. Kaido remained silent, retracting the Azura Path puppet, and calmly watched the approaching ships. Soon, ninjas from the other 3 villages landed on the island, positioning themselves around Kaito. Everyone's here now. Kaito said, surveying the scene. You're all here for the box of ultimate bliss, right? That's right. Hand it over if you know what's good for you. Samurai from the Cloud Village demanded coldly. We've heard you're strong. Kitsuchi from the Stone Village added. But now you're facing the elites of the 5 great nations. You have no chance. Keep an eye on him. Ao from the Mist Village ordered his team. Don't let him escape on his summoning beast. Although they had information about Kaito, most hadn't witnessed his battles in Hidden Leaf Village and Hazuki Castle firsthand. They estimated his strength to be on par with the 5 Kage at most. However, this place was filled with top-tier ninjas from the 5 great nations, alongside experienced teammates. They were confident in taking him down. Only Kakashi and Yamato remained wary. They had a clearer understanding of Kaido's strength from Guy's account of his battle with the Akatsuki members. Elites of the 5 great nations, how terrifying. Kaito said leisurely. But there's only one box of ultimate bliss. How will you divide it? Chapter 79. As soon as Kaido finished speaking, the scene fell silent. Ninjas from different villages began to watch each other warily. Don't be swayed by his words. Sammy said coldly, drawing her ninja sword. We'll talk about distribution once we have the item in hand. Indeed, let's cooperate to defeat Kaido first. Kitsuchi added, stepping forward. For a moment, the other ninjas seemed to calm down. Where did you hide the box of ultimate bliss? Sammy pointed her ninja sword at Kaido. It's in a place you absolutely can't find. Kaido replied with a smirk. If you're not planning to hand it over willingly, then we'll wait until you're interrogated. Sammy's figure moved. Cloud style, flying blade. She enveloped herself in lightning and swiftly slashed her ninja sword towards Kaido. Captain Amoy, standing behind her, also drew his ninja sword and charged forward. Cloud style, crescent slash. He swung his sword downwards with force, sending a huge crescent-shaped blade of chakra towards Kaido. Facing the sword attacks of the 2 Hidden Clouds Village ninjas, Kaido felt a bit playful. She took out her own sword weapon, a short dagger. Originally used as a short sword, the dagger was a weapon samurai used to pierce armor in close combat and wasn't suitable for swordsmanship. However, under the influence of Rumyaku energy, the tip of Kaido's dagger emitted golden flashes, extending its length to almost that of a normal sword. Kaido's body instantly went from still to moving, leaving after images in the air as she easily dodged Amoy's slashing attack, then raised her hand to block Sammy's ninja sword. At the moment when the 2 swords were deadlocked, Amoy raised his hand to sheath his sword and lightning flashed around him, instantly appearing by Kaito's side. Cloud style, inside mist slash. This was a long-range draw cut. Amoy's ninja sword swiftly left its sheath, emitting a dazzling white light. Faced with this seemingly unavoidable draw cut, Kaido loosened her grip on her sword, tiptoed, and her body instantly rose into the air. Earth style, rock pillar spear. Water style, water dragon bullet. Kitsuchi and Ao took the opportunity to attack, sharp rock spears and a huge water dragon attacking Kaido from different directions. The edge of Kaido's sword extended as she turned around, drawing a circle around herself. Swish. The rock spear and water dragon were both neatly cut into 2. At this moment, only the ninjas from Hidden Leaf Village and Hidden Sand Village remained motionless. I didn't expect Kaido to be skilled in swordsmanship. Yamato, watching the battle intently, said. No, he shouldn't be proficient in swordsmanship. Kakashi, as the son of Hidden Leaf Village's White Fang, had neglected his own swordsmanship but still had his keen eyesight. He seems strong because of his extreme speed and the terrifying chakra attached to the sword. I see. Yamato suddenly realized. In the eyes of the ninjas, Kaito seemed to possess an extremely special chakra. Hidden Leaf Village even believed that he possessed another bloodline limit besides the Sharingan. What are the Hidden Leaf Village and Hidden Sand Village ninjas waiting for? On the other side, Kitsuchi suddenly shouted. Kakashi exchanged a glance with Yamato, and together with Maki from Hidden Sand Village, they stepped forward. Samui glanced at them and waved her hand to signal Amoy to retreat. Kaido lightly landed on a tree, looking down at the approaching 5 people, teasingly saying. Only one person comes out from a village, huh? You really don't want to lose out. Enough chatter, the 5 of us here are enough. Samui said, pointing her ninja sword at Kaido. Is that so? But I don't think it's enough. Kaido took a step forward, landing on the ground, and formed hand seals. Ramyaku blessing. The earth surged under his feet, and the golden mist enveloping him gradually became dense. At the same time, starting from him, the air began to tremble slightly. What is this? Be careful. Kakashi shouted from afar. Although they didn't know what jutsu Kaito was using, everyone had the same thought in their hearts. They couldn't let him complete this jutsu. Don't think you can get away with this. Samui suddenly charged forward with her sword. The others also quickly formed hand seals, using their fastest and most proficient ninjutsu. Water style, water bullet. Ao spat out a water ball. Earth style, earth pillar spear. Kitsuchi clapped his hands, and earth spears emerged from the ground. Wind style, wind slicing jutsu. Maki conjured a wind blade in front of her. Wood style, silent binding jutsu. Yamato stretched out his right hand, which turned into a wooden strip that rapidly extended. For a moment, Samui's sword, Ao's water ball, Kitsuchi's earth spear, Maki's wind blade, and Yamato's wooden strip all flew towards Kaido from different directions. The tremors in the air grew louder, and everyone felt an extremely terrifying momentum brewing. The others were too far away to do anything but watch anxiously, hoping that the 5 people could stop Kaido. It's too late. Kaido smirked. A visible ripple spread rapidly from Kaido's center. The moment Samui touched the ripple, she fell heavily to the ground. The ripple continued to expand, crushing everything in its path, whether it was a water ball, a wind blade, an earth spear, or a wooden strip, into powder. As this ripple continued to spread outward, the ninjas from the 5 major villages fell one by one like dominoes. In the blink of an eye, there was only Kaito standing alone on the deserted island. This is. Kitsuchi struggled to speak. Gravity. You're right. Kaito strolled over to him. I now control the gravity on this island. This is something you can do? Kitsuchi seemed to have adapted to his condition, speaking more fluently. It seems we've all underestimated you. Only now you realize. Kaito said playfully. It seems that the people from Hidden Leaf Village are smarter after all. As soon as he finished speaking, Yamato's skin began to change color, finally turning into a wooden man. At the same time, on the other side, Kakashi's body also turned into smoke with a bang. What? The people lying on the ground struggled to turn their heads to look, only to see the figures of Kakashi and Yamato emerging from the sea. Damn it, Hidden Leaf Village definitely withheld information. The thoughts of everyone echoed in unison at this moment. But even as Kakashi and Yamato stood on the surface of the sea, their expressions were grave, no lighter than those of the others. Although they might have the chance to escape now, they absolutely couldn't do so. Apart from the fact that their fellow Hidden Leaf Village comrades were still on the island, if the ninjas from other villages died here today, it would spell trouble for Hidden Leaf Village. After all, the leaders here were trusted subordinates of the Kage of each village, not dispensable characters. If they all died here, it would definitely cause turmoil in the ninja world. Kaido, what do you plan to do next? Kakashi, realizing the severity of the situation, decided to try to peacefully resolve the issue. Because, based on his past impressions, Kaido wasn't a bloodthirsty person. Kakashi, I know you want to save these people. Kaido rubbed his chin. What should we do then? I still need to think about it. With that, he turned and walked away, leaving everyone on the island in a state of uncertainty. Chapter 80. As Kaido and Kakashi conversed, Kitsuchi mustered all his strength, trembling hands forming seals to release a jutsu. Earth style, lightened boulder. Kaido turned towards the sound. Kitsuchi was already on his feet, rapidly forming seals. Earth style, mountain stone. A rumbling echoed as 2 massive hemispherical rocks rose from the ground, aiming to crush Kaido. Oh? Hidden Stone's village's techniques are quite impressive, especially that one that resists gravity. Kaido showed a look of interest. What? Kitsuchi looked bewildered. At this moment, the massive rocks formed by the mountain stone had stopped moving. Unfortunately, when it comes to manipulating the earth, I have the upper hand. Kaido theatrically clapped his hands. Earth style, mountain stone. He pretended to use the same jutsu but actually used the energy of Rimyaku to reshape the land. Two identical rocks rose rapidly from either side of Kitsuchi, slamming together and trapping him between them. Kitsuchi's eyes widened as he coughed up blood. In those few seconds, everyone's emotions swung wildly. Seeing Kitsuchi use a technique to counter gravity had filled them with joy. But now, they were back to feeling dejected. You all needn't struggle any longer. Kaido suddenly knelt on one knee, placing his hands on the ground. Rimyaku lock. In the terrified eyes of everyone, countless golden chains burst from the ground like a swarm of serpents, wrapping around them. Even Kakashi and Yamato were not spared, as several chains emerged from the sea, attacking them. The ninjas, already suppressed by gravity, were soon tightly bound by the chains. Kakashi and Yamato continued to adjust their stances, dodging as best they could. Kaido shifted his gaze to the sea, causing even more chains to spring forth, forming a web that sealed off the two men's escape routes. Kakashi quickly formed seals, lightning crackling in his hand as he attacked the chains. Chidori. The collision of lightning and golden chains produced a harsh sound but did not damage the chains. What? As Kakashi clashed with the chains before him, another chain shot out from behind, binding him. Soon, Yamato was also bound, and both were dragged onto the shore. Did he escape? Kaito raised an eyebrow as he watched Yamato's body turn into a puddle of water. No wonder he didn't put up much of a fight earlier. But that's fine, someone has to be responsible for protecting the rest of you. Kaito stood up, forming seals. I've figured out what to do with you all. It's time to test my new technique. Seal. The golden chains wrapped around everyone glowed even more brightly, slowly merging into their bodies and leaving patterns on their skin. This was a technique Kaido developed, inspired by the heavenly prison of the Mu clan. Using the inherent binding properties of Rimyaku lock, he completely sealed off the ninja's chakra. Of course, it didn't have the limitation of the heavenly prison, which couldn't leave the caster too far. Very well, now you can't use chakra anymore. Kaido lifted the gravity suppression and released Kitsuchi from the rocks. Now, let's have a proper talk. Everyone slowly stood up, maintaining their guard as they gathered around their respective leaders, exchanging wary glances. What do you want to discuss? Kakashi, feeling the state of his body and realizing he couldn't gather chakra, spoke with some resignation. The others remained silent. The current situation put Kaido in an absolute position of power, so it was better for the familiar Kakashi to speak. All of you here are important forces of your respective villages, right? Kaito smiled. If you were to fall here, it would be a significant loss for your villages. Kakashi had an inkling of his intent but played along. What are you trying to say? Kaito sighed. I have a kind heart, so I'll let you go this time. Everyone had the same thought, this person isn't willing to offend all 5 great ninja villages at once. Thank you. Kakashi replied politely. It's nothing. Kaido waved his hand with a smile. But this will be the only time. Although his words were kind, the 5-pointed star in his eyes exerted great pressure on everyone. Next time, I won't be so lenient. I understand. Kakashi had no other options at the moment, so he straightforwardly ordered his fellow Hidden Leaf village ninjas. Let's go. As for the seals on their bodies, they could only figure out how to deal with them back in the village. The other village ninjas watched as the Hidden Leaf village group successfully left the beach and boarded their ship, with Kaito making no further moves. They felt slightly relieved. One by one, everyone started to leave, though their bodies remained tense and their expressions wary, fearing that Kaito might suddenly attack them. Kankuro, are you leaving your puppets behind? Kaito kindly reminded someone not to forget their belongings. Kankuro didn't dare correct Kaito about his name. Without chakra, he could only silently go over and awkwardly pick up his 2 puppets, holding them in his arms. The puppets blocked his view, forcing him to move slowly, the puppets' limbs clanking together with each step. Finally, Maki, unable to stand it any longer, took one of the puppets and slung it over his shoulder. Once everyone was on the ship, Kaito suddenly called out loudly. By the way, if you can't undo the seals back in your villages, it could cause big problems. You can came to me for help. So kind? Everyone looked back in surprise. To remove the seal and restore your chakra, 10 million ryo for a jonin, 3 million ryo for a chunin. Quite reasonable, isn't it? Kaido waved his hand. See you all later. The 5 great ninja villages had launched a massive operation against Kaido, even surrounding him at one point. Surprisingly, the battle ended in a complete defeat for the ninja sent by the 5 great villages. This shocking news spread quickly as the ninjas returned to their villages, causing an uproar. It wasn't that the villages wanted to keep the news secret, but during the operation, Hidden Grass Village had sent a group of ninjas as support. The sight of the defeated ninjas from the 5 great villages had been witnessed by them. Besides, There were few forces other than the 5 great ninja villages that could be considered rivals. Though it was embarrassing, no village was worse off than the others. They were all equally humiliated, so they accepted it. Next, each village focused its efforts on studying the seal Kaido had placed on their ninjas. Although the level of expertise in sealing techniques varied among the villages, after some time, they all reached the same conclusion. They were powerless to break the seal. Should they really spend money to find Kaido? No, that would be too humiliating. But if they didn't seek his help, would their valuable ninjas be crippled? Go or not go? Everyone was conflicted. Ultimately, they all had the same thought. We should go, but our village mustn't be the first. Chapter 81, Kaido didn't care what happened to the various ninja villages. At this moment, he had already set off on a journey to find his next target. High above the clouds, Kaido lay lazily on the back of Gyur, basking in the sunlight. Why did you spare those ninjas? Gyur's voice came. Even if you could earn some money in the end, it doesn't really mean anything to you. Kaido, resting his hands behind his head, replied with a contented expression. Just maximizing benefits. What do you mean? Gyur was curious. If I had killed those people, I would be facing relentless retaliation from the 5 major ninja villages. Kaido's voice was as lazy as his posture. Don't forget my goal is to collect the demons that escaped from the box of ultimate bliss. My exorcism journey has just begun, why get bogged down in that quagmire? Now, they are preoccupied for various reasons, allowing us to act quickly before they react. At least we can secure the Zero Tails and Morio without interference. Moreover, regardless of the goals of the Akatsuki members, they will inevitably ignite a war that will sweep across the entire ninja world. At that time, the 5 major ninja villages will need to be at the forefront. To act as cannon fodder? You really have a way with words. Kaido pouted. Of course, there was another reason he didn't mention. Their level of attack couldn't provoke even a bit of anger in him. He had always approached them with a playful attitude. Just like an adult being softly punched by a child, would the adult think of retaliating? Wait a minute. Without realizing it, have I become arrogant? Kaido suddenly reflected on his own attitude, wondering if he had become a bit too complacent. In the following time, he adjusted his mindset and began to think about his next target. According to the order of emotions, joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness, the first demon he planned to seal was the Zero Tails, representing joy, which escaped from the box of ultimate bliss. This was also the weakest among the 4 demons that escaped. Although the Zero Tails could absorb the darkness within people's hearts to increase its power, the process was extremely slow. According to the information provided by CIMI, the Zero Tails was currently still relatively weak. With detailed information, Kaido aimed directly at the border of the Land of Fire. According to CIMI, the Zero Tails was currently being secretly nurtured by Shinno, the leader of the Sky Ninja. The Sky Ninja were a group of ninjas who fought using mechanical power and were particularly adept at aerial combat using chakra wings. They were defeated by Hidden Leaf Village during the Second Great Ninja War. After that, Shinno disguised himself as an ordinary doctor, secretly gathering strength, intending to start another war to seek revenge against Hidden Leaf Village. He hid the Sky Ninja's headquarters, a large floating fortress named Anchor Bandian, in a tropical rainforest, hoping to use the Zero Tails to generate massive energy to power the fortress. Gyur flew Kaido straight over from the sky, avoiding detection. Through his connection with Ryumyaku, Kaido quickly located the Zero Tails. After ending his perception, Kaido stood up and said to Gyur, who was squatting on a branch nearby. I'll need you for backup, Gyur. No problem. Gyur, finally in a forest environment, felt much more comfortable. Then I'm off. Maintaining his connection with Ryumyaku, Kaido sank into the ground. The Sky Ninja Fortress Anchor Bandian was disguised as ruins, located in a nearby forest. The room where the Zero Tails was held was underground. Kaido traveled through the earth, entering Anchor Bandian without alerting the Sky Ninjas, and soon arrived at the room where the Zero Tails was kept. It was a tall cylindrical room with walls inscribed with dense runes. A huge cocoon, suspended by web-like white threads, hung in midair. The Zero Tails, curled up inside the translucent cocoon, was asleep. Shrouded by Ryumyaku, Kaido had merged with the Earth's aura, not disturbing the sleeping Zero Tails. Ryumyaku lock. Countless chains shot through the air. By the time the Zero Tails awoke to the sound, it was already tightly bound by golden chains. Enraged, the Zero Tails contorted its ghostly face and roared at Kaido. Who are you? The floor under Kaido's feet trickled like water, and a massive square box slowly rose from below. It's time for you to go home, Zero Tails. Standing on top of the box of ultimate bliss, Kaido rose to eye level with the Zero Tails. Upon seeing the ghostly face on the box aimed at it, the Zero Tails started struggling more violently, shouting in panic. No, Impossible, how do you know about this thing? Come on, Zero Tails, return to where you came from. Kaido formed hand seals. Soon, your companions will join you. Crack. The joyful ghostly face on the box of ultimate bliss began to tremble, then detached and fell to the ground. The beast head usually hidden by the mask opened its mouth wide, emitting a silent roar at the Zero Tails. Strands of dark purple mist emerged from the beast's mouth, darting out like tentacles and piercing into the Zero Tails' body. Damn. Let go of me. Feeling its power rapidly drain away, the Zero Tails panicked, calling out for its accomplice. Shinno. By the time Shinno arrived in a hurry, most of the Zero Tails' power had been consumed by the box of ultimate bliss, leaving it in a critically weakened state. You bastard. Shinno could no longer maintain his guise of a gentle doctor. That was my life's work. With a face twisted in rage, he charged at Kaido with a punch. Kaido, maintaining his hand seals, remained calm. Suddenly, a golden chain shot out from the side, striking Shinno hard and sending him flying into the Zero Tails. Shinno, you're here. The Zero Tails, now weak, spoke, its tone turning frantic. If you can't save me, then become part of my power. Its skin rippled, quickly absorbing half of Shinno's body. Ah! Shinno screamed in agony. Release your inner darkness and join me in eternal life. The Zero Tails continued to consume Shinno's darkness. What a futile struggle. Kaido coldly observed the scene, controlling the box of ultimate bliss to speed up the absorption. Even though the Zero Tails had gained some strength from Shinno, it was of no help. Soon, the box of ultimate bliss drained all power from the Zero Tails, and its empty shell disintegrated into ash. The dark purple mist tentacles retracted into the box, and the beast head closed its mouth. The mask on the ground flew back to its original position, the eyes glowing purple. High above, Kaito lazily lay on Gyur's back again. Where to next? Gyur asked. The land of demons. Kaito squinted at the blue sky. Chapter 82, One day, Kaido and Gyur landed in a forest to rest.